Chapter 1805. The group of five moved as fast as lightning, constantly using teleportation arrays to rush to the shrouding heaven secret realm. All these years, countless forces wanted to head to the shrouding sky secret realm, causing the teleportation formation to be filled with people. Those without connections could not even use the teleportation formation. In some places, the teleportation formation was priced at a sky-high price, requiring one to pay 10,000 strands of faith just to use it. In the Sword Dao sacred ground, heaven-suppressing prefecture city, Yi Qinghan and the others looked at the long queue. The various forces were all waiting for the teleportation formation. These days, the teleportation formation alone could earn them a lot of money. How long do we have to wait? Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. The divine bird rolled its eyes and suddenly shouted, "There's a pseudo-saint weapon behind us. Go grab it." Countless people turned around and looked behind them. There was a slight commotion, but no one left the queue. After all, it was difficult to line up. The divine bird urged, "Go release a pseudo-saint weapon or we'll have to line up until next month." Yi Qinghan shrugged and said to Fozhen Demon Lord, "You guys line up first, I'll lure these people away." With that, Yi Qinghan left quietly. Moments later, a saint light appeared behind him, piercing through the clouds and stirring the mountains and rivers. A pseudo-saint weapon really appeared. "Let's go grab it." The crowd moved and the queues were in a mess as they quickly rushed to the back. The divine bird added fuel to the fire, saying that the pseudo-saint weapon would only belong to the fated ones. Regardless of cultivation level, everyone would have a chance. As a result, the long queue in front of them instantly cleared out, leaving only the few of them. When Fozhen Demon Lord brought Lin Wuxian and the others to the teleportation formation, Yi Qinghan took the pseudo-saint weapon and quickly returned. The crowd looked around but did not find the pseudo-saint weapon. Helplessly, they walked back and found that they were the only ones queuing outside the teleportation formation. They quickly ran back to line up again and almost started fighting. Yi Qinghan and the others calmly waited for the teleportation formation to open again. "Is someone playing with us? I saw the pseudo-saint weapon just now. Could it be that it has a weapon spirit and escaped on its own?" The people at the back were discussing while Yi Qinghan and the others pretended not to know. But in their hearts, they were overjoyed. Playing with them and saving so much time was not a bad thing. Soon, Yi Qinghan handed over some money and the guards opened the teleportation formation, sending Yi Qinghan and the others away. Along the way, they were the people in the teleportation formation. And they were the people. The people here were tough, and the weather was extremely dry and cold. The number of Xiuzhe had plummeted, and adventurers were not willing to come here. Where? Yi Qinghan looked around. Mountains rose and fell, covered in white frost. Sparkling icicles shone under the sunlight, exuding a rainbow-colored radiance. It was a beautiful sight. Fozhen Demon Lord was familiar with this place. He pointed to the southeast of the battle race and said, "The southeast of the battle race is the intersection of the Holy Empire and the Holy Empire. There is an entrance there. After entering, you will find a completely different heaven-shrouding mystic realm. The entrance is closed all year round. Otherwise, if humans plunder the resources inside for a long time, it will arouse the anger of the beasts inside." The group walked forward on foot. As they stepped on the soft frozen ground, a rustling sound could be heard. Some 10,000-year-old pines stood tall. From time to time, some spiritual squirrels would pass by. On average, they would encounter a small village in half an hour. 30 to 50 families would form a village, 300 to 500 families would form a small tribe, and 10,000 families would form a large tribe. This place was remote, and there were few pedestrians. The five of them moved as fast as lightning, shuttling through the valley like chasing shadows. They constantly encountered large groups of disciples from various major forces, led by half-step eternal experts. Some groups had 30 to 50 people, while others had hundreds of people. The young disciples all had powerful cultivation, and the lowest level was at the fourth layer of the Sector Lord realm. Not many people knew Fozhen Demon Lord. As for Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian, they were even more unknown. However, Jian Qinshue and Yu Qingqing were more eye-catching. After all, they were too beautiful. On a balanced official road more than 30,000 li away from here, two top-grade little beauties looked exactly the same. Especially their temperament, they were like naughty fairies. They were running around on the street, with three burly men chasing after them. They were so tired that they were gasping for breath. Little ancestor, slow down, slow down. I'm so tired. Emperor Yi and Bai Xiaoxing's reincarnated golden bodies still had not recovered their memories. Now that they were experts of the Sector Lord realm, they would probably need to reach the half-step eternal realm to recover their memories. The two occasionally flew into the sky and occasionally bought divine treasures on the street. The three half-step eternal experts behind them did not dare to be careless. Sister, are we going to participate in the Shrouding Sky secret realm? Wu Qin's big round eyes were like stars. With her round face, noble temperament, and tall figure, she could attract the attention of countless people wherever she went. Her voice was even more melodious, like the sound of nature. Of course. Of course, we're going. Wu Xing looked confident. Her body was pure and holy, exuding the light of fate. Wu Xing was wearing a purple divine robe, while Wu Qin was wearing a white robe. If not for their different clothes, everyone would have thought that they were seeing things. At this moment, the three middle-aged burly men came from behind and said with a wry smile, "Little ancestor, old ancestor specially said that you can't participate in the secret realm. When a general is on the outside, his orders will not be accepted. Since we are the little ancestors, you have to listen to us." Wu Qin patted her chest and said in a domineering manner. The three men looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Wu Xing patted her clothes confidently and said proudly, "What are you afraid of? Who can break through the defensive sacred artifacts on our bodies? Plus, we're not to be trifled with." The three Wu brothers smiled wryly. Their defensive saint artifacts weren't omnipotent. Plus, the Shrouding Sky secret realm was extremely dangerous. The three of them couldn't enter the secret realm. If they let the two little fellows go in, they would cause a huge commotion. "Boss, why don't we go to the Shrouding Sky secret realm first? Maybe old ancestor has already sent people here." One of the middle-aged men smiled wryly. "Sai, let's talk about it when we get there. If we can't, we'll put them in the battle race team." The leader sighed. Serving these two little ancestors was more tiring than fighting enemies for 100 years. Jing Tian was scared that they would run away. The reincarnated golden body was moving in the same direction as Yi Qinghan, and they were slowly getting closer. However, Emperor Yi and Bai Xiaoxing had not recovered their memories. Even if they met, they might not be able to recognize each other. After all, the reincarnation had caused their original aura to completely disappear, leaving not a trace behind. Bai Xiaoxing was Bai Zai's reincarnation after all. That sliver of luck was Yi Qinghan's last hope of recognizing them. However, the chances weren't high. There were too many people with luck in the world. Wu Xing's luck wasn't too strong right now. Yi Qinghan was traveling in peace. He didn't know that Emperor Yi and Bai Xiaoxing's reincarnated golden body would be so close to him. He didn't even sense it. The entrance of the Shrouding Sky secret realm was guarded by a huge tribe. At this moment, tens of thousands of forces had gathered. There were also countless rogue cultivators who came to form their own teams or move alone. Jiang Jingtian had already arrived outside the secret realm. He carried a long spear on his back and kept looking for people from the insane sect. After 3 months, he finally found Di Longtian. At this moment, Medusa was strolling around with the immortal Tong Tong. Tong Tong was an undead spirit. He couldn't die, but he didn't live or grow. After so many years, he was still the same child. His talent was already terrifying. In terms of cultivation, he was even scarier than Jiang Jingtian. After being brought by Medusa for so many years, his nature had changed a lot. He was now like an innocent child. His aura was restrained. No one knew that he was a bomb that could explode at any time. More than 20 experts of the insane sect were scattered around the tribe, waiting for Yi Qinghan's call. Chapter 1806. Outside the mystic realm, villages were everywhere, forming a huge tribe. There were tens of thousands of shops, and even the Sacred Spirit Company had set up a branch here. Every time the mystic realm opened, the business here would be booming. The various major forces set up camp outside the tribe, stretching for thousands of miles. The Sword Dao Holy Land was located in a huge valley. Including Sword 13, there were a total of more than 3,000 elites. Half of them were disciples of the Sword Dao sect, and the other half were rogue cultivators in the Sword Dao Holy Land. They were attached to the Sword Dao sect, but they had to give 50% of the treasures they obtained to the Sword Dao sect. Jian Shisan was still waiting for Yi Qinghan. He still did not know how many people there were in the Kuang sect, or what their cultivation was like. Only Yi Qinghan knew the real situation, but he was also looking forward to it. A few days later, Wu Sheng and Wu Qin appeared in the tribe. They were running around recklessly, but they were so cute that not many people were willing to bicker with them. Instead, they took the initiative to befriend them. The three big men behind them followed them from a distance. They did not get too close, hoping that they could give them some survival experience. Mu Zhuang, an elite disciple of the insane sect, was holding a wooden sword in his hand. His clothes were ragged, making him look like a beggar. He could only look at the entrance of the store, but he didn't dare to go in and buy anything. Because he had no money, he was forced out of the store several times and was even humiliated. Xian Yain was an expert from the crazy sect. His hair was disheveled and his body was stained with blood. No one knew how many battles he had gone through. It seemed like he had suffered a lot over the years. Xian Yanshua walked through the crowd with a wretched expression on his face. He looked like a brother to the divine bird. Even the look in his eyes was very similar. There were too many people here, and it was impossible to gather them unless someone climbed up high and shouted. However, no one dared to do so. After all, it was too dangerous. Every expert here was not weak. Yan Ao and Huang Peng set up camp and waited for Yi Qinghan's arrival. Xia Qiue and Xia Ziluo walked side by side, exuding a faint dragon's might. Especially Xia Ziluo, whose cultivation was even higher, vaguely suppressing those of the same level. In the middle of the tribe, a group of young experts were pushing Shirgu, their faces full of disdain. Scram! How dare loose cultivators and people from small factions come to the central region? What are you looking at? If you keep looking, I'll kill you. A few powerful disciples from wealthy families angrily rebuked Shirgu and joined forces to force him. Shirgu shrugged. As the saying went, a wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. Zi Tian of the Qilin bloodline, he was dressed in black and had a tyrannical physical body. He had just passed Sector Lord level 4 and could barely enter the secret realm. However, his combat strength wasn't weak. His aura was retracted and he could be considered one of the early batch of experts from Kuang's sect. Shenong Qin Yan and Lu Ao Tian kept a low profile as they walked amongst the crowd, patrolling left and right. Suddenly, they were pleasantly surprised as they saw the Heaven's Equal Monkey King walking towards them with a long staff in hand. "Brother Monkey King, have you found any other brothers?" Lu Outyan asked excitedly. The aura of the Chitian Monkey King changed as though he was an undefeatable god of war. His majestic body was almost 2 meters tall as a powerful aura emanated from his body. His face was stern as he shook his head, "Not yet. There are too many people and I can't find him." I reckon that Brother Yi isn't here yet either. At this moment, Wu Yan ran over from afar. With a face full of joy, he called out, "Uncle Monkey King, Uncle Lu, I've been looking for you for a long time." Lu Outyen and the Heavens Equal Monkey King were full of smiles as they patted Wu Yan's shoulder. The brothers of the insane sect were especially excited to meet each other. Although they hid their excitement well, their smiles betrayed their inner feelings. Most of the people of the insane sect came from the endless star system. They were all giants amongst men. Their brotherhood was not something that could be betrayed for benefits. There were still more than 100 years before the opening of the secret realm. Everyone was waiting impatiently as the sounds of quarreling grew louder and louder. Especially the people of the sacred grounds. There were 100 great clans and 3,000 strong sections. Almost everyone looked down on each other and started fighting whenever there was a disagreement. However, everyone knew the rules and would only fight far away from the tribe. Otherwise, the enforcers would not hesitate to suppress them. On a certain night, Yi Qinghan climbed to the peak of a tall mountain alone. He held the saint weapon spear in his hand and pointed it towards the 9 heavens. His aura surged and attracted the sun, moon, and stars. Insane sect, gather. Boom! The sound was as mighty as thunder, exploding in the sky. Yi Qinghan used his god power and his deep voice rumbled in all directions. Hua! Many forces stared at the distant sky and saw a beam of light bathing the mountain peak. They were surprised and asked, "Which force is the insane sect? How come I've never heard of it?" "I've never heard of it either. It's so strange. Could it be a hidden force?" Some time ago, I found a piece of news related to the insane sect in the Blessed Buddha Temple's territory. At that time, I was still puzzled. Seems like I'm not ignorant. Everyone was discussing as they looked around, trying to see who was from the insane sect. Wu Sheng and Wu Qin looked at Yi Qinghan from afar. He was holding a long spear, and his aura was able to move the stars. Their hearts trembled. They looked at each other in confusion, but they both shook their heads. They obviously did not know who he was. Several people were moving quickly from all directions towards Yi Qinghan's direction. "Boss, Yan Ao is here to report." "Boss, Huang Peng is here to report." The first to report were Yan Ao and Huang Peng. They were the closest to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan walked down from the mountain peak with a rosy face. Seeing his 2 brothers, he immediately hugged them and threw the saint weapon spear in his hand to Yan Ao. "The real saint weapon is yours." Yi Qinghan did not hesitate to throw the saint weapon spear in his hand to Yan Ao. When Yan Ao received the spear, he was almost crushed under the weight of the spear. It was very difficult for him to wield the spear, let alone use it. "Damn, it's a good spear, but I can't use it. It's too heavy. The Tao of spear on it will affect me." Yan Ao smiled bitterly. He used the saint weapon spear not because he comprehended the Tao of spear, but because he was the commander. It was best to use the saint weapon spear when charging. At this time, Jiang Jingtian rushed over and saw the saint weapon spear at first glance. He waved his hand and the saint weapon spear in his hand was stabbed into the ground. He stretched out his hand and said, "Let me try." Yan Ao did not feel regretful. Everyone in the insane sect was his brother. If he could not use it, he would naturally share it. Boom! Yan Ao tossed the long spear to Jiang Jingtian. Jiang Jingtian's Qilin arm erupted with power as a wild and overbearing aura emanated from his body. He waved his hand and received the long spear. With a light wave, the space around him shattered. Woo woo woo. Boom boom boom. Bang! Jiang Jingtian's saint weapon spear pierced through a small mountain, causing the entire mountain peak to explode. "Good spear," Jiang Jingtian said excitedly. Yi Qinghan immediately laughed. "Since you can use it, then use it. I have prepared 2 spears for the 2 of you." As for the other one, I refined it myself. Its quality is definitely inferior to this one. The difference is too great. Yen Ao, you can use this pseudo-saint artifact that I forged myself. After saying that, Yi Qinghan threw a saint weapon spear. Yen Ao stretched out his hand and caught it. It was to his liking that he could use it to display a stronger might. Chapter 1807. After Jiang Jingtian's report, Gu Qingyu, Qitian Monkey King, Mu Zhuang, Medusa, and Tong Tong arrived. There were more than 20 experts, all of whom were kings of the younger generation. Although their realms were not very high, the determination in their eyes was definitely something that many disciples of great forces could not possess. Many cultivators' divine senses swept past and scanned the members of the Kuang sect. They looked at the tattered clothes of the Kuang sect with disdain, but when they put on the defensive holy divinity robes and held the pseudo-saint implement, they realized that they had misjudged them. What's the origin of this crazy sect? Did they steal the burial goods of a great tomb of a holy land? An expert from a great family stood on a high mountain and looked at the people of Yi Qinghan in the distance, curiously asking. At this moment, at least 100 great forces were paying attention to the people of the crazy sect. The 100 great clans and 3,000 sects were too lazy to care about the real holy land, and basically, those forces had not yet arrived. I don't know, they are a group of young people, but that old man looks familiar. I seem to have seen him somewhere before. A lower-level half-step Eternal Realm expert frowned and said. At this moment, Jian Shirsan of the Holy Land of Sword Principles walked towards Yi Qinghan. Everyone thought that he was a small force cultivated by the Holy Land of Sword Principles, so they dismissed the idea of continuing to investigate. Then, Zhang Yingshi of the Heavenly Chant Mansion also walked over. There were many people in the world who did not know Celestial Lord Fazhen, but there were not many who did not know Zhang Yingshi. Moreover, their clothes had already revealed their identity. Jian Shirsan looked at the group of people of the crazy sect and was really shocked. It was already shocking that a sect had a monstrous genius like Lin Wuqian, but the others were not bad either. There were more than 20 people, and none of them were inferior. They could be regarded as the backbone of any sect, and could be specially cultivated. My Heavenly Chant Mansion would like to meet you face to face. When we enter the secret territory, we can take care of each other. Even if we can't trust each other, it's better not to become enemies. Zhang Yingshi came over and said straightforwardly. Sword 13 also nodded. My senior brother's thoughts are the same. After all, we're friends. If we can cooperate, then we should cooperate. If we can't, then we shouldn't become enemies. Sword 13 calmly suggested. Yi Qinghan didn't know much about the rules of the secret territory, but Fazhen was very clear about it. In the secret territory, unless it was a real brother, no one could be trusted. Jian Shirsan, Daoist Zhang, we can be considered to be working together. Yi Qinghan doesn't understand the rules of the secret realm, but it's impossible for you to not know. For the sake of benefits, people from the same sect will kill each other. You can't represent your subordinates. For the sake of Wuqian's life, I won't allow this unless you give this old man a reassuring pill and let your leader talk to me, Lord Fazhen said coldly. Jian Shirsan smiled bitterly. He was naturally aware of the dangers of the mystery realm, and the value of some sacred medicines could cause brothers to fall out with each other. It was practically impossible for two forces to join forces. I'm the leader of the Heaven's Chant Mansion. As long as Daoist Fazhen agrees, I can take you to meet the 3,000 experts of the Heaven's Chant Mansion. At that time, I will personally kill any disciple who dares to attack the Kuang sect. Zhang Yingshi knew how terrifying Yi Qinghan and Lin Wuqian were. These two people could definitely defeat a large number of the younger generation in the secret territory. If Lin Wuqian stepped into the half-step Eternal Realm, the Kuang sect would be able to defeat everyone in the secret territory. After all, even a half-step Eternal Realm expert would be in the lower realm after millions of years. It was impossible for him to defeat Lin Wuqian, so Zhang Yingshi strongly hoped to cooperate. Yi Qinghan also wanted to have some teammates. After all, the Kuang sect's people were too few. If there was a big force to join forces with, they could take care of each other in the secret territory. So, he nodded and agreed. Jian Shisan went back to ask Lord Sword and Saint Chess, and Zhang Yingshi also left alone. In the camp, after the experts of the Kuang sect changed, they began to cultivate crazily. In these years, they had been working alone. They had no money or elixirs, so their progress was quite slow. With the help of the sacred elixirs, they could at least break through 2 small realms. The divine bird also began to cultivate crazily, hugging the beast emperor shaft all day long. However, since the last outbreak, it no longer had any thoughts of breaking through to the next realm. It swallowed several sacred elixirs but to no avail, so it could only give up. Heaven is jealous of geniuses. This divine bird should not be like this. The divine bird shook its head and said. At this moment, outside the camp, the Buddha's light soared into the sky. Amitabha. Yi Qinghan, you and your divine pet have committed a terrible crime. Why don't you come out and ask for forgiveness? A mighty Buddha voice rushed out of the camp. Fozhen Demon Venerable unsheathed his god-slaying sword and appeared outside the camp in a flash. He looked at the 2 immortal Buddhas and said coldly, 2 old monks, this is the Shrouding Sky secret realm. Everyone is here to seek treasures, not to seek revenge. If there's anything, we'll talk about it later. Amitabha, Fozhen Demon Venerable, since you're from the older generation, don't interfere in this matter. Otherwise, I will order the world to slay demons. An immortal Buddha's light soared into the sky, illuminating the valley as if it was daytime. Slay demons. Slay demons. Who's the demon? Who's the demon? Me. Fozhen Demon Venerable asked coldly. Junior brother, don't complicate matters. The other immortal Buddha bowed and said, Taoist Fozhen, Buddha is merciful. Give Yi Qinghan and his divine pet a chance. As long as you let Yi Qinghan come out and promise me one thing, his crime will be forgiven. What is it? Yi Qinghan walked out and stared at the 2 immortal Buddhas. They were both middle-stage experts. The leading immortal Buddha bowed and pretended to be dignified and benevolent. He said solemnly, Yi Qinghan, you and your divine pet have committed an unforgivable crime. But Buddha has decreed that as long as you enter the secret realm and obtain the flying immortal divine herb as a devout offering, Buddha will feel your sincerity and accept you into Buddhism. Transcend nature. Fozhen Demon Venerable was enraged. He had only heard of the flying immortal divine herb but had never seen it before. Even those who had seen it were eternal sovereigns. 1 stalk of flying immortal divine herb represented 1 eternal sovereign. Blessed Buddha Temple's taste was really big. With flying immortal divine herb and a few more saint herbs, they could refine eternal pills. In the past, Central Earth's holy nation's holy lord had refined eternal pills. Because of this, his 9 disciples became eternal sovereigns. Yi Qinghan sneered and asked, what if I don't agree? Amitabha, Buddha is merciful. If you don't want the chance, this old man will represent Buddha to suppress you in hell. The immortal Buddha coldly replied. Look at your murderous looks. Calling you immortal Buddhas is really an insult to this name. Yi Qinghan lightly replied, please go back. I have no interest in the flying immortal divine herb. Not to mention that I don't know about it, even if I did, I wouldn't fight for it. Once the flying immortal divine herb appeared, who knew how many experts would fight for it? Whoever got their hands on it would die. It wasn't an immortal herb that could become an eternal sovereign but a bomb that could take one's life. A truly smart person wouldn't touch it. Chapter 1808. The 2 immortal Buddhas looked like Buddhas, but their hearts were like demons. Their eyes revealed the darkness in their hearts as they stared at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan, this is the last chance our Buddha is giving you. Let's see if you can grasp it. The leading immortal Buddha reminded. The atmosphere outside the camp became oppressive. Killing intent filled the air. A cold wind blew. It was already winter in the north. The cold wind was bone-piercing. Hua! Pieces of withered leaves turned into blades that sliced through the darkness. Sand and stones hit the mountain rocks, producing ear-piercing sounds. The tents were rumbling from the impact. Yi Qinghan held the dark gold rod and replied honestly, Immortal Buddhas, this isn't a matter of whether you give me a chance or not. How capable do you think I am? I'm just a sector lord level 9. I'll only be cannon fodder if I fight with the sacred lands, clans, and 3,000 sects for the flying immortal godherb. I'd rather die in their hands than let an eternal do it. At least I'll have a good reputation after death. The two immortal Buddhas glanced at each other. The leading immortal Buddha continued, I've already investigated your strength. Your brothers aren't weak either. There shouldn't be a problem if you cooperate with our blessed Buddha temple to get the flying immortal godherb right. Yi Qinghan snorted and shrugged, no problem. But you have to settle our quota. We need 24 quotas. No problem. The two immortal Buddhas left silently. Fozhen watched them leave. His eyes flashed coldly as he reminded, it's not wise for you to agree to fight for the flying immortal godherb. Yi Qinghan smiled evilly, I'll just agree verbally. Whether we can find the flying immortal godherb after entering Shrouding Sky's secret realm is another matter. Even if we do find it, I won't be so stupid as to take the bullet for them. It's more like they'll take the bullet for me. Not long after the two immortal Buddhas of the blessed Buddha temple left, a gust of cold wind swept by. A man wearing a bamboo hat appeared outside the camp of the insane sect. Yi Qinghan had already sensed that this person was Moz when he approached. That strange aura was unforgettable after seeing it once. He could sense it even from far away. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan walked out with the dark gold rod in hand. He saw Moz's back facing him as he stood at the mouth of the valley. He said, Senior Moz, may I know what request you've come to make? Mozilian didn't even turn his head. Pass on my message. As long as you accompany me to hell to obtain the flying immortal godly medicine, your crimes of destroying the order of hell and destroying the hell soul locking ring will be written off. Yi Qinghan shrugged and rubbed the tip of his nose with his left hand. It seemed like this flying immortal elixir was something the Holy Lands had to obtain. What benefits will you give us? Don't tell me you're going to remove my charges. Shouldn't they give us some support in the early stages? Yi Qinghan asked calmly. Moz finally turned around. His eyes were like lightning as he stared at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan, do you really think hell can't do anything to you? Moz asked coldly. Senior Moz, do you really think I'm easy to bully? No matter how big a mistake I made, I can still use a flying immortal godly medicine to make up for it. Besides, I'm just borrowing your hell to send 2 girls away. It won't affect the order of the Holy Lands. If you didn't spread the news, who would know? Yi Qinghan asked coldly. Moz saw Yi Qinghan's resolute attitude and didn't want to complicate matters. He waved his hand and handed over 10 reincarnation Dao fruits. He said in a low voice, the insane sect must give it your all. Otherwise, don't blame hell for going all out to hunt you down. Yi Qinghan took the reincarnation Dao fruits and said frankly, Blessed Buddha Temple also asked me to help them get the flying immortal godly medicine. However, I didn't take any benefits from them because I know they can't be trusted. So Senior, can you tell the Lord of Hell that if I help you get the flying immortal godly medicine, he'll give us a way out? Moz frowned and thought for a moment before saying, let me report to my lord. I'll let you know if there's any news. Many thanks. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and bowed slightly. Moz left, leaving behind Yi Qinghan with a serious expression. He faced the wind alone. His robe fluttered in the wind as if it was imprinted in this spacetime. Yi Qinghan slowly walked to the side of the valley. He leaned against a rock and thought about how to deal with the situation in the shrouding sky secret realm. Now, he had to stabilize the two holy lands. At least there wouldn't be any enemies in the secret realm. The death rate would also decrease. Hua! Just as Yi Qinghan was thinking, a black shadow flashed. With a wave of his hand, the dark gold rod on his back flew into the sky and was taken away by the black-robed man. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He looked up and his body tensed up. He quickly bowed and said, "So it's Senior. Thank you for the rod. If it wasn't for your rod, I'm afraid this junior would have died." It turned out to be the half-step eternal senior who gave the rod to Yi Qinghan in the great Buddha city. However, at this moment, he stared angrily at Yi Qinghan and said hoarsely, "You solved the problem of the two holy lands. My problem, don't think you can solve it with just a few words." Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and quickly explained, "Senior, please listen to this junior's explanation. That bastard really couldn't return the dark gold rod to you. Later, after escaping from danger, he didn't know where to find you, so he kept it with him. If Senior needs anything, this junior will do his best to compensate Senior for saving his life." The black-robed man gnashed his teeth in anger. Yi Qinghan had stolen the dark gold rod, and it had taken him so many years to find it. If it were any other bad-tempered half-step eternal sovereign, they would have already killed him. Yi Qinghan could feel the black-robed man's anger, but he could also understand. If he lent the Rui bell to someone else and they stole it, that person would definitely be slapped a few times. In order to calm the black-robed man's emotions, Yang Kai quickly bowed and handed over a blood-boosting saint pill and a blood-power divine pill, saying, "Senior has a good eye. You must know about these two divine medicines. The blood power divine pill can increase a half-step eternal sovereign strength by dozens of times. At the cost of burning one's life force and vitality, the blood power divine pill can instantly rise to the upper realm. It can save one's life. The other is the blood-boosting saint pill, which can alleviate the side effects of the blood power divine pill. The two complement each other and have almost no side effects. Two saint pills, they were absolutely priceless. Yang Kai estimated that it was enough to buy this dark gold rod. The black-robed man's face suddenly changed, and he quickly put away the two pills. His attitude changed greatly, and he said with a gratified look, "Kid, this old man didn't misjudge you. I knew you were a grateful person. Well, if you like this dark gold rod, I'll give it to you. I was just joking with you. Although this level of dark gold rod is good, I have better ones." The black-robed man changed his face as quickly as flipping a book. Who let these two pills be so valuable? With these two saint pills, he would be in an invincible position. An eternal sovereign would not personally take action for him. Chapter 1809. Outside the valley, the black-robed man's attitude took a 180-degree turn. Yi Qinghan did not expect that not only did the black-robed man's anger disappear, but the black-robed man also gave him the dark gold rod. That expression seemed to say that if he did not accept it, he would be looking down on him. Yi Qinghan smiled awkwardly and quickly put away the dark gold rod. "Senior, if you don't have your own camp, why don't you enter the secret realm with us?" Yi Qinghan asked tentatively. "This old man is a rogue cultivator. This is my 30th time participating in the secret realm. I guess it will be my last time. Since you are so filial, this old man will take you along." The black-robed man patted his chest and said proudly. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. Since Lord Fozhen and Demon Venerable could not enter the secret realm, it would be best if they had a half-step eternal sovereign on their side. "Senior, please come in. This junior welcomes you." Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and invited. The black-robed man nodded and stepped into the camp in the valley. At this moment, everyone in the crazy sect was cultivating hard, striving to advance as soon as possible. They did not seek to enter the half-step eternal sovereign realm, but to survive, they must at least reach the 8th level of the sector lord realm. After all, their number was still too small. The insane sect only had a total of 40 people. Over the years, some had died, some had been injured. Half of them had stepped into the realm of sector lords while the other half had yet to step into this realm. Hence, none of them had answered the summons and were all hiding in the dark to cultivate. Lord Fozhen felt the aura of a half-step eternal sovereign and immediately came out. Looking at Yi Qinghan's happy expression, he could not help but look up at the black-robed man and found that he did not know him. After all, there were many half-step eternal sovereigns. The macro world was so big, who knew where a half-step eternal sovereign would appear? How should I address you? Lord Fozhen squinted and asked. When the black-robed man saw Lord Fozhen, he immediately bowed and replied, "It turns out to be Senior Fozhen. This junior is a rogue cultivator, Zhou Yi. I belong to the True Dragon sect, one of the 3,000-strong sections. I have been wandering the Jianhu for many years without a fixed residence. Senior should not know me. Senior Fozhen, this Senior Zhou has saved my life before. You can believe that he can enter the mystic realm and take care of us." Yi Qinghan hurriedly explained. For the sake of Lin Wuqian's safety, Lord Fozhen was wary of everyone. After all, entering a secret territory was too dangerous. Fellow Taoist Zhou, if you can protect them and bring them back safely, I can pass on some of my cultivation insights to you as repayment for your kindness. Demon Supremacy Fozhen stared at Zhou Yi and said in a deep voice. Senior Fozhen is too courteous. I feel like old friends with this brat Yi at first sight. It's not a problem to bring them along. Besides, he has made peace with hell and blessed Buddha temple, so the danger has been reduced a lot. I guarantee that they won't have any big accidents, Zhou Yi quickly assured. Magic God Demon Venerable still had a certain deterrent force, especially half-step eternal sovereigns, who would give him some face. With the powerful foreign aid of Zhou Yi, Yi Qinghan's confidence multiplied. There were still 100 years before the opening of the Shrouding Sky Mystic Realm. Everyone was competing for the quota to enter the Mystic Realm. However, this time, there were more forces and quotas than before. Even if they wanted to fight, it would take hundreds of years to determine the winner. In the end, the Holy Lands, 100 great clans, and 3,000-strong sects jointly voted that as long as one was above the 5th layer of the Sector Lord realm, was under 1,000,000 years old, and had a cultivation base that did not exceed the intermediate half-step Eternal Sovereign realm, they could enter the Shrouding Sky Mystic realm. The destructive power of experts above the intermediate realm was too strong. The Holy Lands didn't want their proud disciples to die in the hands of an intermediate realm expert, so the intermediate realm experts were excluded. Zhou Yi's cultivation base was at the peak of the lower realm. Once he took the blood power divine pill, he could reach the peak of the intermediate realm. He could even stand shoulder to shoulder with the upper realm experts and fight against the experts of the Holy Lands. In the end, the crazy sect obtained 26 quotas under the struggle of the 3 Holy Lands. Excluding the crazy sect's own people, plus Lu Qingqing and Zhou Yi, the quota was just enough. All the major forces were waiting anxiously. The smell of gunpowder was exuding from the huge tribe. The Holy Lands were also not harmonious. The young disciples were fighting with each other, trying to suppress each other. The crazy sect tried their best to restrain themselves and cultivated crazily. The time of the opening of the secret realm was getting closer and closer. The originally disharmonious atmosphere suddenly became lively. In the east, a golden light covered the sky. 9 giant dragons were pulling a chariot. A huge flying divine artifact, dragon boat, was flying in the sky, covering the sun. Looking from afar, the dragon boat was the strongest divine artifact. A man in a dragon robe stood in front of the flying divine artifact. He was handsome and had an extraordinary temperament. He held a green dragon fan in his hand. His eyes were filled with disdain. "It's the crown prince of the Holy Lands, Xia Jiulong." Roared that the dragon's roar resounded through thousands of miles around the tribe. The sky instantly darkened. The dragon boat stretched out. There were 8 small dragon boats hanging on the left and right sides. There was a small dragon boat at the back. There were thousands of experts on each dragon boat, representing the forces of the 9 palaces. Whoosh! The dragon boat broke through the void and quickly landed on the left side of the entrance of the shrouding sky secret realm. The experts were shocked and retreated, including the people from the Holy Lands and the powerful sections. Hiss hiss hiss. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Just the experts on the dragon boat alone could sweep through the entire great world's younger generation. The Holy Empire of the Middle Earth was indeed the ruler of the great world. Roar! The giant dragon roared, blowing a gust of wind. Sand and stones flew all over the sky. They were like hidden weapons hitting the mountain rocks. No one dared to be dissatisfied and could only slowly retreat. Xia Jiulong waved the green dragon fan with a smile. He stood on the dragon boat and bowed to everyone. "Jiulong is late and has disturbed everyone. I hope the seniors of the Holy Lands can forgive me. We don't dare. 9 Dragons Crown Prince, we haven't seen each other for many years. I didn't expect you to have improved so much. I have cultivated for millions of years and have almost been surpassed by you." The battle tribe elder Zhang Qi bowed. Everyone shook their heads. They didn't have the qualifications to talk to Xia Jiulong, let alone forgive him. The disciples of the Holy Empire of the Middle Earth's 9 lords disembarked from the dragon boat and set up camp. They forcefully kicked away the various factions that had already set up camp and occupied the most advantageous area. The various factions' encampments instantly changed. Yi Qinghan stood in the distance and looked. He couldn't help but marvel at the strength of the Holy Empire of the Middle Earth. A single faction was actually able to suppress the various Holy Lands, the 100 great clans, and the 3,000 great sects of the great world. "Humph," Fozhen Demon Ancestor snorted and said, "Sky-reaching cult and Oshi Holy Ground are not here yet. Once they are here, it will be even better." Just as Fozhen Demon Ancestor finished speaking, a flying saint artifact rushed over from the west. It was also a dragon boat. However, the one pulling the boat wasn't a divine dragon but a black eagle. Its body was huge like a peng and it could fly millions of miles with its wings spread. Screech! The black eagle let out a long screech, causing the surrounding rocks to explode and eardrums to rupture. The weak started bleeding from their 7 orifices. It is the Oshi Holy Ground. It is incompatible with the Holy Empire of the Middle Earth. Nothing good will happen when both sides meet. Do not get dragged into the war. Fozhen Demon Ancestor reminded. Chapter 1810. The Oshi sacred ground had arrived, and there were many of them. This was the alliance of the strongest forces in the far west continent. They had always been fighting with the central continent's Holy Empire. Although they were always at a disadvantage, they had never submitted to the central continent's Holy Empire. Yi Qinghan looked at the Oshi sacred grounds experts. They were taller and whiter than those from the east. Their eyes were blue, and their hair was blonde. Because of this, they had always claimed to be more advanced than other humans. They were the favored children of the heavens. The black eagle landed on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Qi rushed into the sky, and even the mountains collapsed. The powerhouses of the Oshi sacred ground landed about 300 meters to the west of the eccentric sect's camp. Their tents were blown away by the shockwave. Many of the smaller forces around them did not want to be bullied by the bigger forces, so they set up camp on the periphery. Yi Qinghan stood at the peak of the valley and stared at the Oshi sacred ground. They had absorbed the black eagle into their bodies and turned it into a mark. After that, they took the flying dragon boat and got off the 30,000 disciples. The strange qi flow affected the spirit qi. The cultivation system here was completely different from the East. Boom! 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 The Oshi Sacred Grounds experts glanced around and found that the insane sect's camp was not bad. Together with the other smaller forces, it was just enough to accommodate 30,000 of them. Yi Qinghan's eyes twitched. He gripped the dark gold rod tightly. The insane sect's disciples came out of seclusion. In the past 100 years, everyone had taken at least one bottle of divine pills. These were 5th-grade divine pills. Everyone had broken through at least 2 small realms. Most of them were stuck at the 8th layer of the Sector Lord realm. Jiang Jingtian, Gu Qingyu, Di Long Tian, Qitian Monkey King, Xia Ziluo, and the other pupils Zixian, Huang Peng, Yen Ao, and the others all broke through to the 9th layer of the Sector Lord realm. Hua! The insane sect was wearing a fake Saint Divine robe and holding a fake Saint Divine weapon. He stood in the middle of the valley with no intention of retreating. Hua! The 3,000-strong sects and the 100 great clans in the central area of the tribe, as well as the sacred grounds and countless other forces, all stared at the insane sect's location. They wanted to see if this strange force really dared to go against the Oshi sacred ground. Yi Qinghan rubbed his nose, licked his teeth, and asked in a low voice, "Should we return it or not?" This question was naturally directed at the divine bird. The divine bird stared at the approaching Oshi holy land, then looked at the other small forces who had already fled to other places. Looking back at the other forces who were watching a good show, it shrugged its wings and said firmly, "We can't retreat. Otherwise, with so many people looking at us, they will think that we are easy to bully. It will be even more difficult later." Ho ho ho. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He looked at Venerable Demon God and realized that he had no intention of backing down. This was a matter of face. If he backed down, it would be the same as being slapped in the face. All the practitioners in the East would look down on him. Far away in the southern part of the Shrouding Sky secret land, Xia Zhoulong stood on a mountain peak and watched with interest as the people from the crazy sect did not retreat. He smiled and said, "Very brave. However, with Fazhen Demon Venerable's protection, I don't think it will be too embarrassing. The Eastern powers will not be completely disgraced." Boom! The leader of the Oshi sacred ground was a white-skinned man who was at least 2 meters tall and burly. He punched through the entrance of the valley occupied by the Kuang Zone and forced his way in. He wanted to crush the Kuang Zone with his momentum and win without a fight. Hum! Jiang Jingtian's divine spear shook slightly, causing the space to distort. He took the lead and stepped out. "There are people here. Can't you see?" Jiang Jingtian asked coldly. Whoosh! Gu Qingyu, Lin Wutian, Di Long Tian, and Qitian Monkey King all stepped forward and formed a straight line, blocking the entrance. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and threw out the dark gold rod in his hand. It stabbed right in the middle of the 2 camps, right in front of Qitian Monkey King. "Brother Monkey King, this dark gold rod is for you," Yi Qinghan said lightly. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stepped lightly on the side of the valley and walked towards the Oshi sacred ground. Zhou Yi and Fazhen Demon Venerable both sat in the center and did not go to the front. This was because the people who came were all juniors of the Oshi sacred ground. They were just setting up camp. If the other party did not come out, they could not lose face. Yi Qinghan came to the front and sat on a rock. Looking at the disdainful eyes of the Oshi sacred ground group, he couldn't help but snort and lean on the rock. "My master said that if we want this valley, we can choose 10 World Lord 9th level experts from your group. If we win 5 rounds, we will retreat. If we can't win, we will choose another place to set up camp." The divine bird stood on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and said proudly. "Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha, thousands of people from the Oshi sacred ground laughed madly. It was the laughter of anger after being provoked. The other sacred grounds of the east were laughing madly. No matter if Guangzhong won or lost, they would at least have some face. If they lost, they would have no choice but to retreat. At least they wouldn't be scared away. If they won, it would be truly ridiculous. In the central region of the Oshi sacred ground, a few dignified old men stared ahead. They thought that Guangzhong was provoking them, but they didn't know that they were the ones provoking Guangzhong. Yega Saint, bring 9 people and crush that small faction in front of us. Raise the valley to the ground. One of the old men said coldly. A young man standing beside the old man smiled coldly and said proudly, this disciple can sweep them all by myself. Senior brother, I'll go with you. I'll go with you too. Since they want 10 people, let's play with them. In the central area, 10 people were quickly gathered. Perhaps they were not the top existences in the holy land of Oshi, but Yega Saint was a real top existence. The others were also the mainstays. They would be the masters of any strong sect if they were placed in. Xiao. Yega Saint brought 9 experts and rushed towards Guangzhong's camp. Stepping on the high ground of the valley, he looked down at Guangzhong and said coldly, how dare you provoke my Oshi sacred ground? Which sacred ground does your sect belong to? Bandit logic. Are we the ones provoking you or are you the ones provoking us? It's not only the sacred ground that dares to go against the sacred ground's prestige. We are nameless sections. If you win against us, you will know. If you lose, scram. Jiang Jingtian said coldly. Bastard. You don't even put the Oshi sacred ground in your eyes. Seems like you were sent by those cowards from the Holy Empire. Since you have the guts to provoke us, you should be prepared to die. Yega Saint raged. Cut the crap. Since you're here, let's draw a line. If you want to rely on numbers, we definitely can't beat you. If you want to rely on individual soldiers, if you win against 5 of us, we'll naturally hand over our territory to you, Jiang Jingtian said impatiently. Yega Saint raged. He stared at the 20-odd people and said in disdain, since that's the case, pick 10 people. However, I want you to fight 10 rounds. Don't quit after losing 5 rounds. That's not fun. Obviously, Yega Saint wanted to kill all 10 of them. Yi Qinghan saw the killing intent in Yega Saint's eyes and smiled coldly. Those who have reached Sector Lord Level 9, step forward. Hua. Jiang Jingtian, Gu Qingyu, Di Longtian, Xia Zi Luo, Zixian, Qitian Monkey, Huang Peng, Yan Ao and Lin Wutian, 9 people. Including me, that's 10 people. Yi Qinghan looked at Yega Saint and said calmly, do you want to fight to the death or stop here? Chapter 18:11. Fight to the death, or stop right there. Yi Qinghan let Yi Jiasheng make his own choice. There was no hatred in winning or losing, because it was his choice. Yi Jiasheng's eyes were filled with killing intent and anger. He looked at Yi Qinghan's calm appearance and swept his eyes over the Eastern practitioners with disdain and contempt. Ants, don't say that I didn't give you a chance to live. Fight until one side kneels down and admits defeat, or die. That will be the end of the battle. Yi Jiasheng said coldly. He was a mighty expert, yet he was kneeling and admitting defeat. Moreover, he was kneeling in front of all the experts of this world. Once he did so, his Dao heart would instantly crumble. Taking another step forward would be nothing more than wishful thinking. This was the same as fighting to the death. Yi Qinghan glanced at the 9 experts beside Yi Jiasheng. He had never fought with the experts of Oshi Holy Land, so he couldn't determine their true strength. However, their realm was similar. If they were suppressed by the Holy Land of Central Earth, then there was nothing strange about it. Yi Qinghan looked at his own side. Jiang Jingtian, Gu Qingyu, Qitian Monkey King, Lin Wutian, Huang Peng, and Yen Ao's cultivation were about the same. It was almost certain that they would win. Especially Yen Ao, his intelligence could crush anyone. Only Xia Ziluo and Zixian might be lacking. Yi Qinghan knocked on the stone, thought for a moment, and nodded, "No problem, we will fight until one side kneels down and begs for mercy, or die." Killing intent shot out in all directions. Thousands of experts from the Oshi Holy Land retreated, giving up the battlefield. The wind whistled, the forest swayed and rustled. Hua! Countless experts rushed to the battlefield, wanting to see a good show. At this time, Jian Shisan stepped into the territory of Kuang's sect and arrived in front of Yi Qinghan. He whispered, "Do you want me to help you fight and replace the weakest girl?" Yi Qinghan shook his head. It was impossible for Yi Jiasheng to not know the Holy Son of Sword Holy Land. In order to not give them a chance to explain, they could only use Kuang's sect's people. Enough. Of these 10 people, only the leader is worth watching. Wu Tian and I can kill him. Yi Qinghan said confidently. Sword 13 didn't say anything else. The crazy sect's camp was surrounded by cultivators from powerful sects and holy lands. Even Xia Jiulong had come in person. Everyone made way for him to enter the valley. He stood side by side with Demon Lord Fazhen but did not greet him. The opposite side of the valley's entrance had been raised to the ground by a few people around Xia Jiulong so that Xia Jiulong could watch. What they did was extremely domineering. This king will be the referee. I wonder which senior from the Oshi Holy Land will come out and be my witness. Xia Jiulong's voice was deep and heavy. It was as mighty as the sound of a bell, resounding for thousands of miles. Cut the crap, Xia Jiulong. These people aren't your men. Since you want to send them to their deaths, this old man will fulfill your wish. Whoosh! A dignified golden-haired old man sped over from behind like a black eagle spreading its wings. He stepped on a person's scalp, and his hair didn't even fly up. His control of strength had already reached the pinnacle. Whoosh! The golden-haired old man stepped to Yegesheng's side and waved his hand to dismiss all the people around Yegesheng. He said coldly, "Hubert, Debil, Ivan Saint, Hillier, Maris, Emperor Ali Shan, Alec May, Edmund, Mel, your Yegesheng will fight. Don't let the eastern cultivators look down on our Oshi Holy Land." These were the top 30 experts of the Oshi Holy Land. Especially Yegesheng, who was ranked in the top 10 of the Oshi Holy Land. Any one of these 10 could defeat 90% of the young cultivators of the powerful sects. Xia Jiulong frowned and glanced at the people of the crazy sect. He didn't think much of them, not to mention the 2 little girls. How could they fight against the top 30 experts of the Oshi Holy Land? Senior Aster, this is the first time I've seen this group of people. A group of nameless juniors. You actually sent out the top 30 of the Oshi Holy Land. Do you have no one else? Xia Jiulong asked with a mocking smile. Whether they are nameless juniors or not, we'll know after we fight. If they are not your people, would they dare to provoke our Oshi Holy Land? The golden-haired old man Aster sneered. Idiot, you slapped my face. Do you expect me to cover my face and retreat? Damn it, if you had discussed it with me, I might have given in. But you guys are so rampant. Do you not put me, Lord Fazhen, in your eyes? Lord Fashion's foot crushed the valley, causing it to tremble. He glared at Aster and questioned. Aster was stunned. No matter how ignorant he was, he should have heard of Lord Fazhen. Lord Fashion's heavenly demon sect was at odds with the Central Earth Holy Empire and Sky-reaching Church. It was impossible for him to be Xia Jiulong's people. These people are your disciples? Aster asked with a frown. Lord Fazhen replied coldly, only one. I joined the crazy sect later. Since you've challenged me, I'll accept it. Isn't it just the top 30? Even if you send the top 10 experts of the Oshi Holy Land, I'm not afraid of you. Experts had their dignity. After being provoked like this, none of them could put down their old faces. Ha ha ha. Interesting. So Lord Fozhen actually gave up on Sky-reaching church and joined this crazy sect. This is a great anecdote. I'm even more interested to see who will win or lose. I also want to see how the cultivation of Lord Fashion's disciple is. After so many years, I wonder if his insight has improved. Xia Jiulong glanced at the 9 people at the front of the crazy sect in Yiqinghan. He could not tell which one of them was Lord Fashion's disciple. Lord Fozhen snorted and did not respond. Yiqinghan rubbed his fingertips. It seemed that this battle was going to be even more difficult. 13th brother, it seems that you'll have to fight in the end. But you don't have to fight first. Yiqinghan narrowed his eyes and stared at Yegesheng and the other top 10 experts. He whispered, Wu Tian, kill this Yegesheng with one strike. Don't leave him any chance of survival. Lin Wutian nodded silently. He was holding a pseudo-saint divine sword. Compared to the god-slaying sword, the difference was too big. However, the simpler the sword, the more the enemy despised it. The guest will follow the host's decision. You guys can send someone out first. Yiqinghan stood up and said calmly. As soon as his voice fell, a gust of wind swept across, blinding everyone's eyes. The cold wind was like a sharp blade, causing people to shrink their heads involuntarily. Boom! Schubert was wearing a holy robe. He was around 2 meters tall and had a burly figure. The weapon in his hand was actually a cross, which exuded a faint holy light that made people feel warm all over. However, the true experts felt a wave of discomfort in their hearts. He's ranked in the top 27 of the younger generation of the Oshi Holy Land. His cultivation is not bad, but his reaction is a little slow. Xia Jiulong nodded and said lightly, as if to remind the people of the crazy sect. In terms of speed, it was the crazy sect's forte. After so many years of fighting and killing, they had never stopped running. Their speed wasn't bad at all. Schubert was the slowest of the 10. Long Tian, you go. Use speed to fight strength, borrow strength to fight strength. Don't fight head-on, and don't get entangled with him. Yiqinghan whispered. Di Long Tian held the heavenly Tao sword in his hand. For so many years, he had been bitterly cultivating. He wanted to prove to his father that he didn't disgrace the heavenly Tao sword. He didn't disgrace his father's expectations. Therefore, he rushed from the weak monarch realm to the unrivaled 9th level of the world overlord realm. Boom! Di Long Tian became one with the world. The heavenly dragon mark on his forehead shone brightly, controlling the aura of the surroundings. Both sides stepped onto the battlefield. They didn't greet each other with the most basic etiquette because their eyes were filled with dense killing intent. The first battle was extremely important. Winning or losing represented the face of both sides. Chapter 1812. Boom! Roar! The heavenly Tao sword seemed to have triggered the great Tao of this world, and Di Long Tian transformed into a celestial dragon that flew through the air like a bolt of lightning. He couldn't fly, but he was still able to fly. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sword projection suppressed the holy light, and the sharp blades on the cross struck the divine sword relentlessly, but they were unable to catch Di Longtian's movements. Whoosh! Splat! Di Longtian's sword pierced through Schubert's collar, and it almost pierced through his neck. However, in this critical moment, he didn't do anything. Instead, he quickly pulled out his sword and retreated. Just as Di Longtian was about to retreat, the cross viciously slashed across Di Longtian's neck. The sharp edge of the blade cut through his skin. If Di Longtian had been impatient just now, the two of them would have died together in an instant. Roar! Schubert let loose an enraged roar. Do you only dare to run, you piece of trash? Di Longtian remained calm and collected. After following Yiqinghan for so many years, he had learned a lot. Sometimes, if he didn't hold back, he wouldn't be able to hold back for the rest of his life. Whoosh! Roar! The celestial dragon emerged from its body and swept its tail toward Schubert. This was a natural dragon physique, and it roared as its aura soared into the heavens. Schubert was given a massive fright, and he gripped the cross tightly as he slammed it toward the dragon's massive tail. Howl! The celestial dragon's cultivation base wasn't very high, and it was sent flying by Schubert's attack, and its body almost exploded. Boom! The celestial dragon's blood splattered through the air, dyeing half the sky red. Schubert was ecstatic. He thought that he had succeeded. Roar! A sword projection slashed toward Schubert's back, and it was as fast as lightning, giving him no chance to turn around. Splat! Di Longtian's sword projection was imbued with the power to destroy heaven and earth as it pierced through Schubert's neck. The sword projection swept toward his sea of consciousness and suppressed his soul, and his blood essence power was set ablaze. Ah! Schubert threw his head back and let loose an enraged roar. Cross slash! He unleashed a final attack filled with hatred toward Di Longtian, but he wasn't completely dead. Their cultivation systems were different, and their bodies could rely on their willpower to unleash short-term attacks, even if their souls were to be destroyed. Di Longtian was given a massive fright, and he immediately abandoned his sword as he transformed into a dragon before coiling around Schubert's golden body. Heavenly Dragon Coiling Eagle Hand. Shoo! Shoo! A streak of golden light revolved around Schubert's body in a frenzy, and the cross hurtled toward Di Longtian, but it was still too slow, and it pierced through its own body. Bang! Schubert's death was rather unjust, he was the one who had dealt the final blow to himself. Boom! Schubert's corpse had been chopped into pieces by his own cross slash. The skeleton fell to the ground. Whoosh! Di Longtian pulled out his sword and retreated. His body was dyed red with blood, and there was even golden blood flowing from his neck. This battle seemed easy, but in reality, he had escaped from the gates of hell several times. Pa pa pa. Xia Zhulong clapped his hands and laughed. Tisk, tsk, tsk. Losing the first battle is not a good sign. Aster was furious. For so many years, he had been trying to suppress the holy empire of Middle-earth, but he had never succeeded. Acting cool when he didn't have the strength, no wonder he was beaten up every time. One match is not enough to determine victory or defeat. This time, it's your turn. Aster said coldly. Lin Wuqian and Yi Qinghan looked at each other before slowly stepping out of the crowd. Their youthful bodies exuded an indescribable sword intent that was so pure that it was suffocating. I don't accept challenges from weaklings. The strongest of the 9 of you, come out. If you can block my sword, it'll be your win. Lin Wuqian said calmly. Arrogant. His words were arrogant, and a domineering aura burst forth from his body. It was as if no one in this world could block his sword. Hiss. Countless people sucked in a breath of cold air. Yi Qinghan was clearly the strongest of the 9. Even Jian Shisan might not dare to say that he could win, let alone block a single move. Xia Zhulong looked at Lin Wuqian, then glanced at Magic God Demon Lord indifferently. He was more or less sure that this person was the disciple of Magic God Demon Lord. He was indeed very strong, and his sword intent was so pure that it was without any impurities. However, his arrogance was a bit excessive. At least, Xia Zhulong felt that Lin Wuqian was too arrogant. He was too young, which was really inappropriate. Yi Qinghan smiled but did not say anything. He leaned on the stone lazily. He had absolute confidence in Lin Wuqian. Even he himself did not dare to say that he could block Lin Wuqian's sword. Jian Shisan had absolute confidence and fear in Lin Wuqian. That was the fear that came from the bottom of his heart. Facing Lin Wuqian, he would lose the courage to attack in the end. Therefore, he looked at Lin Wuqian with a trace of murderous intent in his eyes. Yi Qinghan's eyes emitted a trace of coldness, and the holy light on his body became stronger and stronger. "Kill him." Aster secretly transmitted his voice. Yi Qinghan stepped forward confidently. He was only 20 meters away from Lin Wuqian. This distance was like a short distance for an expert. "One sword. Today, I'd like to see how powerful your sword is." Yi Qinghan took out a pseudo-sacred weapon, the Holy Light Sword. This was a replica of the real Holy God Sword. Among the pseudo-sacred weapons, it was one of the top 10 famous swords. Lin Wuqian did not reply. His slender hand held the hilt of the sword, and he was ready to answer Yi Qinghan with his strength. Whoosh! The divine sword was unsheathed, and a rainbow rushed into the sky. Man and sword became one, and heaven and earth became the sword. Whoosh! 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 Within a radius of 1,000 miles, the hearts of countless young powerhouses started to thump. Their facial expressions changed as if their hearts were about to explode. Lin Wuqian's sword intent was too terrifying. A wisp of sword energy swept across, and the mountain rocks were cut open. It was as flat as a mirror. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lin Wuqian made his move. It was an ordinary stab, but it contained supreme swordsmanship and an inviolable will that could shatter the heavens. Whoosh! Xia Jiulong stood up and looked at Lin Wuqian's back in shock. The sword pierced through the clouds and broke the 9 heavens. The sword intent shattered the void and startled the 10 overlords. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. Before he could react, the sword had already appeared at his throat. He did not have time to react, so he directly blocked his throat with the Holy Light Sword. He held the hilt with both hands, hoping to block the sword. Whoosh! 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 An ear-piercing sound pierced through the rocks and earth, and the earth cracked. A deep abyss appeared in everyone's sight. The pseudo-divine sword pierced through the back of the Holy Light Sword and entered Yi Qinghan's neck. Drip! 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 Blood dripped from the tip of the sword. Yi Qinghan's eyes showed no other emotion, only fear and unwillingness. The world was dead silent. Even the superior masters were stunned. It was like a divine sword. It was an immortal skill, a swordsmanship that could only be used by an eternal being. One of the 10 famous swords. Yi Qinghan could not block the sword. Whoosh! Lin Wuqian pulled out the sword, sheathed it, and turned around without any pause. Yi Qinghan's body and will were destroyed by Lin Wuqian's sword. Looking at Lin Wuqian's back, the light in Yi Qinghan's eyes dissipated. The wound on his neck was only 2 narrow slits, and there was not even a drop of blood. If it were not for the 2 drops of blood falling from the tip of Lin Wuqian's sword, everyone would have thought it was an illusion. Chapter 1813. Dong dong dong. At this moment, even the wind stopped. Everyone's heartbeat continued to rise and fall, their breathing became coarse, and the sound of saliva being swallowed could be clearly heard. Only Yi Qinghan and magic god demon sage knew Lin Wuqian's strength, so they were still as immovable as a mountain. Just as the insane sect gained the upper hand, Yi Qinghan looked straight at Aster and said, "Our small sect doesn't want to provoke trouble. If senior wants to stop, this junior won't have any objections." Aster's mouth twitched, and his killing intent intensified. His hands were trembling as he said hoarsely, "You killed 2 of our disciples, and you want to stop just because you said so? Where will this old man put his face?" Yi Qinghan looked at Aster's crazed expression and shook his head confidently. "If you insist, you will lose even more face in the end. I can make sure that none of the 10 people sent by your sacred ground will live." Yi Qinghan's voice was filled with a firm will that left no room for doubt. Aster stared at Yi Qinghan. He could see that he was the backbone of the insane sect. It was impossible to kill Lin Wujian. Even if the strongest saint of the Oshi sacred ground's younger generation came, he would still be killed. He couldn't take this risk, but he was confident that he could kill Yi Qinghan. As long as he killed Yi Qinghan, he would regain his face. Aster's eyes signaled to an expert beside him. That person quickly understood and rushed towards the Oshi sacred ground. The distance of a few thousand meters was covered in a moment. Lord Saint Spell Warrior, the High Priest invites you to battle. The expert was in the top 30 of the younger generation, but facing the person in the carriage, he didn't dare to raise his head and speak. His body was bowed humbly. The Oshi sacred ground's 10 great Saint Spell Warriors were known as the 10 Wild Tigers. When they came out of the mountains, they would shake the world and cause a rain of blood. Yegesheng was the 10th ranked Saint Spell Warrior, but he was killed by Lin Wujian in a single strike. The Holy Spell Warrior in the carriage was Arthur Shen. He was ranked 6th and wielded the Blood Dragon Saber. It was rumored that a supreme dragon god was sealed within the saber. It was extremely vicious and few people dared to use it. Those who dared to use it were all people with a heavy killing intent, and Arthur God was the god of massacre of the holy land of Oshi. Wherever it passed, not even a blade of grass grew. Whoosh! The curtain of the carriage was opened, revealing an old and cold face. His eyes were not blue, but blood red. His body emitted an endless aura of death and the smell of blood. It was unknown how many people he had killed in his life. Just a glance at him would make any expert's hair stand on end, and even their blood and chi would freeze. Dong dong dong. The young man's heart raced. He was afraid that Arthur God would suddenly stab him. Do you need me to personally deal with the nameless sect? Arthur God's cold voice made people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave, without any human emotions. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The young expert's back was drenched in cold sweat. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva and his fingertips trembled slightly. He replied respectfully, "The High Priest hopes that you can kill the leader of the crazy sect. Only you can be 100% sure that you can kill him. The High Priest doesn't want to complicate matters." Whoosh! Arthur God stepped out of the carriage. His blood-red battle robe fluttered without wind, emitting a thick smell of blood. A murderous aura affected the hearts of the experts around him. They did not even dare to condense their battle intent. His aura alarmed the experts around him. Arthur God was only ranked 6th in the Oshi Holy Land, but if he really fought, it was not certain who would kill who among the top 3. Because he learned how to kill, not how to compete. Yi Qinghan leaned against a rock and looked into the distance. His hair fluttered, and his eyes flashed with flames. As long as the opponent's true expert appeared. What a strong murderous aura. Did this person grow up killing people? The divine bird asked in surprise. Dong dong dong, Arthur God's appearance was almost the same as Lin Wujian's. His aura was enough to make the experts' hearts beat faster. Aster, you're getting more and more shameless as you age. If you die again, are you going to drag the top 3 of the 10 great berserk tigers out for a walk? Demon Venerable Fozhen questioned coldly. Aster sneered and said disdainfully, there is no need to use the top 3 wild tigers to kill an ant. After all, they are not in the same realm. In the Oshi Holy Land, only the top 3 of the top 10 experts of the younger generation had stepped into the lower plane and were very young. This was one of the reasons why Arthur God was not in the top 3. High Priest, who do you want me to kill? Arthur God walked 1,000 meters in one step and stepped into the valley where the insane sect's camp was located. He looked up and asked calmly. Aster stared at Yi Qinghan. He did not need to answer to show his attitude. Arthur God turned to look at Yi Qinghan. There was no change in his eyes, as if there was no difference between killing Yi Qinghan and killing other ants. Interesting. It might be more interesting if the demon god's disciple fought against Arthur God. However, since he can lead so many experts of the insane sect, I think the leader will not let me down. Xia Jiolong smiled. I will definitely not let you down. Magic God replied coldly. Zhou Yi was even more confident. He had seen Yi Qinghan's battle with his own eyes. When he was ruthless, it was really deadly. Although Arthur God was already a legend in the Oshi Holy Land, it did not mean that he was invincible. Come down and accept your death. Arthur God said coldly. TSK, the divine bird said disdainfully, has this guy lost his mind? So he wants to boast too. Ha ha ha, Xia Jiolong took the lead and laughed. The divine bird's words were really satisfying. Regardless of winning or losing, this was the real beginning of the show. Ha ha ha, this bird is so cute. Many experts of the Holy Land laughed. However, the people of the blessed Buddha temple could not laugh. Because when they saw it, they thought of the divine bird pretending to be a heavenly Buddha, scaring countless monks in the great Buddha city into kneeling and begging. That was the shame of the blessed Buddha temple. This time, even if Yi Qinghan helped them get the flying immortal elixir, the divine bird could not escape death. Arthur God's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Anyone with a slightly weaker will would be scared to death. But what kind of person was the divine bird? It had killed a lot of people. Yo, you can't make this divine bird faint with your boasting. Are you trying to scare this divine bird to death? Look at your eyes. How are you human? I'll give you a mirror. Look at yourself in the mirror. Don't scare yourself to tears. The divine bird waved its little claw and actually threw out a mirror. One could imagine how narcissistic it was. Boom! Arthur God's eyes emitted a sharp light again. The mirror turned to dust in front of him, but there was no fluctuation of godly power. If you kneel and beg for mercy, this seat will spare your life. Don't use trash like this to provoke me, otherwise, you will die a miserable death. Arthur God glared at Yi Qinghan and said coldly. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly and rubbed his nose. He walked down the slope, his green robe fluttering in the wind. The rhythm of his footsteps reverberated in the air. This person is very strong. He's the same type as me, violent and fast. His murderous aura can intimidate the enemy. However, there's a small gap between him and me. If I were to fight him, I would need 10 breaths of time to finish him. Yi Qinghan stared at Arthur God's legs, arms, and palms, judging this person's strongest moves and attacking habits. It was as if Arthur God was attacking in front of him, but his movements were slowed down by countless times. Chapter 1814. Everyone held their breath and stared at the center of the battlefield. Just now, Lin Wutian had demonstrated that the eccentric sect was really strong. The leader of the eccentric sect should not be an embroidered pillow. Few people knew Yi Qinghan, but no one did not know Arthur Shen. In the whole world, few monsters dared to say that they could defeat him. However, Yi Qinghan shook his head and said, "Forget it, I don't want to fight anymore. I really don't want to offend the Oshi Holy Land because I have offended too many holy lands." Yi Qinghan was very distressed. He was like a flickering firefly. Even if he hid in a low-key way, those holy lands would desperately dig him out and force him to explode. Finally, they would give him a bad name. Powerful forces always followed the logic of bandits, no different from the Oshi Holy Land. However, Arthur did not appreciate it. He was still very strong and said coldly, "I will give you a chance to fight." Arthur Shen did not even take out his blood dragon saber. He just stood proudly in front of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan reluctantly exhaled a turbid breath and touched his forehead. He had an impulse to die. If he offended the Oshi Holy Land, he would offend the 4 Holy Lands. However, he did not know that because of Fozhen Demon Venerable, he had inexplicably offended the 3 great schools of the Sky Reaching School. Seeing Yi Qinghan unwilling to fight, Arthur Shen could not help laughing. Since you don't want to fight, I will fight first. Whoosh! Boom! Arthur Shen clenched his iron fists and twisted his toes. The blue veins on his arms bulged, and his killing intent soared to the sky, affecting the opponent's mind and qi and blood. Unfortunately, Yi Qinghan's qi, blood, and mind could not be affected by killing intent alone. At least, only an expert of the middle realm of the half-step eternal realm could make him unable to resist. Boom! Arthur Shen stepped on the mountains and rivers, and broke the void with a punch. A blood-red dragon rushed out from behind him, sweeping across the sky. Roared that the blood-red dragon was lifelike, as if it was alive. The blood-red fangs with the smell of blood rushed to the surrounding experts, stagnating their qi and blood, unable to circulate. Boom! Arthur's iron fist had already brought the blood dragon to Yi Qinghan's side. The strong wind blew Yi Qinghan's black hair backwards, and his facial muscles were distorted. Whoosh! Whoosh! The tip of Yi Qinghan's feet gently slid, causing the ground to crack. His waist was one with the earth, and he borrowed the power of the earth to transmit it to his limbs and bones. Boom! 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 Yi Qinghan's iron arms were suffused with flames as divine radiance blossomed. His iron fists flipped inward and blasted toward Arthur in the form of a vortex. Yi Qinghan summoned the 5 elements dragon behind him. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth shattered the void with a thunderous momentum and gathered at the center of his fist. Boom! The 2 iron fists collided with each other. Qi soared to the heavens. The mountain slopes on the west side of the valley trembled. The rainbow light turned into a circular wave of qi that spread out in all directions. Boom! The waves of air rushing towards the east of the valley reached Xiajiolo, but they were actually blocked by an invisible thought, not causing the slightest ripple. Boom! 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 Thud, 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 Kacha. Yi Qinghan's waist erupted again. The power of the inch strike increased tenfold, and he sent Arthur flying with a single punch. He kept retreating, leaving behind a footprint with each step. The ground cracked, and his expression changed drastically. His iron bones and flesh were torn apart, and he was bathed in a river of blood. However, Yi Qinghan did not retreat. Instead, he stomped on the ground and charged upward. His foot shattered mountains and rivers, and he swept across like a long spear. Bang! Arthur was unable to dodge as he retreated. He could only wave his right hand to block. However, when the long leg kicked his arm, it was as if his arm had been broken. It was immediately twisted, and his elbow viciously slammed into his waist. He lost control of his body and fell to the left. 2 breaths. Bang! 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 Yi Qinghan was like a ferocious tiger descending from the mountain. In a spurt of energy, his iron fists transformed into meteors and lightning, and they landed sharply on Arthur's body. Boom! 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 Bang! 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 His fists contained the power of the 5 elements and the power of destruction. Arthur's blood and qi stagnated, and his body felt limp and powerless. He could not resist at all. Furthermore, Yi Qinghan's speed and strength surpassed his by a little. His iron fists were like holy weapons, and they constantly landed on his body. Bang! His elbow struck, and his leg broke. 5 breaths. Boom! Yi Qinghan's fist landed on Arthur's chest, causing blood to spurt out like swords. He charged toward Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's eyes burned with flames. He leaned to the side to avoid the blood swords, and with a flip of his hand, he grabbed Arthur's head. His iron arm formed an arc. 6 breaths. Boom! Space was shattered in a flash, and Arthur's body was smashed into a rock. Boom! Yi Qinghan pressed his palm against Arthur's head, sealing his flesh and soul. His large hand grabbed Arthur's neck and lifted him up. 7 breaths. Just as Yi Qinghan had predicted, he suppressed Arthur with every step. He did not even give Arthur a chance to draw his blade. He won. Everyone felt like they were dreaming. They rubbed their eyes and asked in astonishment, "That's it? You can fight like that? What happened just now?" "I don't think I saw Arthur God retaliate," a young man asked in shock. "Don't talk nonsense. Arthur God did retaliate, but it was too fast. You just couldn't see it. This insane sect master is really strong. He actually intercepted Arthur God the moment he attacked." Another expert pretended to be profound and explained confidently. "Really?" The group of young men looked at that expert with admiration. It was as if he had seen through everything. "Of course. He's the sixth strongest holy spell warrior, known as the bloodiest man in the lower realm. How could he not have a chance to retaliate?" that expert said proudly. Hiss. Phew, the way Xia Jiulong looked at the members of the insane sect had changed. Previously, he had looked at them as if they were ants. Now, it seemed that none of them were easy to deal with. They had won all 3 battles, and they had won by an overwhelming margin. Arthur was not dead, but he was suppressed by Yi Qinghan. He was lifted by the neck, and his face was red. His large hand grabbed Yi Qinghan's wrist, trying to pry open his fingers. However, how could Yi Qinghan's fingers be moved by flesh and blood? Yi Qinghan looked like he was lamenting the heavens and pitiful people. He solemnly shook his head and said, "I really don't want to offend the Holy Land. Why force me to kill you?" As soon as he said that, Yi Qinghan's killing intent soared to the sky. It was even denser than Arthur's, and his killing intent was even more imposing. At a glance, it was obvious that Yi Qinghan had killed many times more people than Arthur. Arthur's qi and blood stagnated, and his body was powerless. He was so intimidated by the killing intent that he didn't dare to move. He stopped struggling and looked at Yi Qinghan's merciless eyes in panic. It was as if he was the real killing god. Aster didn't dare to take any more risks and quickly pleaded, "Fellow Taoist, please have mercy. We'll retreat." Yi Qinghan let go of Arthur's neck and firmly said, "Senior, I hope you can feel my sincerity. I don't want to offend your holy land. If I'm provoked again, I'll definitely go all out." Cough cough. Arthur's breathing was rapid, as if he had difficulty breathing. He held his neck and took several steps back. He stared at Yi Qinghan, and after 3 breaths, he pulled out the blood dragon saber with a face full of killing intent. Yi Qinghan's eyes carried a hint of warning as he shook his head, indicating that he shouldn't make a move. Chapter 18:15. Arthur grabbed the blood dragon saber and his aura increased by dozens of times. His killing intent condensed. "Arthur, stop. He gave you enough face. Otherwise, you would be dead already. Put the saber away." Aster's eyes flashed. He could see that Arthur was no match for Yi Qinghan and immediately warned him. Arthur reluctantly put away the blood dragon saber and stared coldly at Yi Qinghan before walking away. Clap, clap, clap. Xia Jiulong kept clapping. Seeing the Oshi sacred ground suffer, he was in a good mood. He didn't seem to care that Fa's Hen was the grand elder of the insane sect. Interesting, such a strong sect appeared in the outside world and I didn't know about it. What a blunder. Xia Jiulong said lightly. Crown Prince, I deserve to die. I didn't even get such information. Please punish me. A middle-aged expert behind Xia Jiulong knelt on one knee and said respectfully. Xia Jiulong stared at Yi Qinghan and said to the middle-aged expert, Xia Shouzuan, how do you think I should punish you? Xia Shouzuan's fingertips trembled slightly as large beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He didn't know how to reply. Yi Qinghan looked at Xia Jiulong's words and actions. Even an upper-level expert didn't dare to be presumptuous. He didn't want to offend him, so he bowed and said, Crown Prince, there's no need to punish this senior. We all came from a small and remote domain. After entering the outside world, we were scattered. No one knows that we're from the same sect. This time, I used the opening of the Shrouding Sky secret realm to call them back to help me. It's understandable that you didn't know. Xia Shouzuan was relieved and secretly thanked Yi Qinghan. If he didn't speak up for him, he didn't know how Xia Jiulong would punish him. Since the sect leader spoke up for you, I won't punish you for now. Why don't you thank him? Xia Jiulong said quietly. Xia Shouzuan let out a sigh of relief and quickly said to Yi Qinghan, "Thank you, little friend, for speaking up for me. How should I address the sect master? In the future, I will definitely return the favor. Sir is too polite. Junior is Yi Qinghan." Junior was merely speaking the truth. It's normal for senior to not know a nobody like me. Yi Qinghan calmly replied. Xia Jiulong nodded, stood up, and left, leaving behind a deathly silence. Aster frowned. Only now did he realize that the insane sect really had nothing to do with the Holy Empire of the Central Plains. He was just unlucky to have kicked an iron plate. Not only did he lose face, but he also lost 2 of his experts. Now that Yi Qinghan had already expressed his goodwill, he could only leave with a grunt. Yi Qinghan looked at Xia Jiulong's back as he left. There was a trace of fear in his eyes. This kind of person was too terrifying. His words could control the life and death of an upper-level powerhouse. This kind of power was not something that could be possessed just by status alone. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was not the only one who was afraid of him. How many people in the world were not afraid of Xia Jiulong? Fazhen reminded in a low voice, "Don't think too much. Xia Jiulong is just showing his power in front of you. He wants you to submit to him and respect him. Just now, even if you didn't speak up for Xia Shouzuan, he wouldn't have killed one of his most capable subordinates. He couldn't kill him because this Xia Shouzuan belongs to the Holy Emperor of the Holy Empire." Yi Qinghan inexplicably heaved a sigh of relief. Only now did he understand how big the gap was between him and a true expert. Vision and vision determined a person's fate. If Xia Jiulong was like this, then the true holy sons of the various holy lands, the strongest of the younger generation, would definitely see more than Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan now had a better understanding of himself. On a mountain peak, Wu Sheng and Wu Qin were cheering. Wu Sheng said crisply, "He won. Let's go suck up to him and let him look after us in the secret realm." "Good, good. If they are willing to protect us, then you 3 can't stop us anymore." Wu Qin clapped her hands and said. The 3 experts of the martial Tao's supremacy holy ground had cold sweat on their foreheads. They smiled bitterly, sigh, 2 little ancestors. You have high statuses. How can you suck up to this group of lowly people? If the other holy lands knew about this, wouldn't our martial Tao holy ground become a laughing stock? If I don't say, if you don't say, who will know? Unless you betray the holy lands. Wu Qin's sly eyes flashed. She glared at the 3 experts with her hands on her waist. She looked very cute. That's right. Little sister is right. Don't tell anyone. Including father and the leader of the holy lands this time. Otherwise, we will tell on you. Wu Sheng's red face revealed a hint of seriousness. Her round eyes were filled with a cunning light. Due to the different identities of the 2 reincarnated golden bodies, their temperament was completely different from before. Even if Yi Qinghan saw them, he would not be able to recognize them. The 3 experts broke out in cold sweat and tried to persuade them, "We don't know where these people came from. Little ancestors, please don't torture us. Also, do you know who the supreme elder of the insane sect is? That's the Lord Fazhen. He was the left guardian of the heavenly demon cult. He killed countless people. It's unbelievable." Humph. The 2 little beauties snorted and said in unison, I believe that as long as we suck up to the sect leader of the insane sect, with our beauty, he will be more than happy to help us." With that, the two little beauties ran down the mountain in unison. When they reached the foot of the mountain, the three experts had no choice but to follow. Whoosh! Wu Qin, and Wu Sheng, were in sync again. They turned around and pointed at the three experts. "Don't follow us. This is the little ancestor's order." The three experts looked at each other and watched the two little beauties walk toward the insane sect's camp. Thump! 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 Wu Qin, and Wu Sheng, were dressed in snow-white robes. They looked about 15 or 16 years old and had the temperament of immortals. They were extremely cute. They ran to the valley where the insane sect was located and knocked on a stone on the side of the valley. They stuck their heads out and said, "Is anyone here?" Yi Qinghan was still explaining some details to the people of the insane sect and the two little beauties ran in. Everyone looked at the two little girls in confusion and then looked at Yi Qinghan. They thought that he had found two little Lolas in the outside world. Jian Qinxue stared at Yi Qinghan, as if asking who these two were. Yi Qinghan was also very puzzled. He scratched the back of his head and asked, "Are you two fairies from the He family? Why are you looking for us? Handsome big brother, you were so powerful when I saw you just now. We are all alone and want to join you to go to the Shrouding Sky secret realm to search for treasures. You look like a kind person. You won't refuse us, right?" Wu Qin, asked pitifully. This method of flattery was indeed a little bad. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and waved his hand unceremoniously. "We don't recruit outsiders. You two should go home. There are all kinds of people around here. You two are too young. You should go home quickly." When the two little beauties heard this, they immediately stared at Yi Qinghan pitifully. Their four big watery eyes seemed to be able to speak. Chapter 18:16. Yi Qinghan flatly refused. The two beautiful girls looked at each other in dismay, but their stubbornness rose. They were the little ancestors of a holy land and had always been able to call the wind and summon the rain. Who would dare refuse? "Big brother, please take pity on us. Our father is seriously ill and needs divine medicine. If you don't bring us in, our father can't be saved. You're surrounded by noble spirit and intimidating dragon aura. You must be a kind person. If you don't help us, no one will. Boo-hoo. Poor us, we're going to be orphans at such a young age." Wu Qin, pondered for a long time. Suddenly, she squatted on the ground and cried in despair. Wu Qin's face fell. She did not expect that Wu Qin would dare to say anything to soften Yi Qinghan's heart. However, since she had already said it, she might as well put down her bottom line and said, "That's right, big brother. Look at how beautiful we are. If we follow other people's team and they have evil intentions, how are we going to live?" Pfft. Before Yi Qinghan's heart softened, Jian Qinxue was amused. She smiled and said, "Husband, these two children don't look like bad people. Why don't you bring them along?" No one had any evil intentions. However, Fozhen Demon Venerable narrowed his eyes and stared at the two little girls. He felt that there was something fishy about them and that they could not be from a small sect. Wu Qin, and Wu Sheng, were frightened by Fozhen Demon Venerable's stare. They held hands and looked at Yi Qinghan pitifully. When Jian Qinxue spoke, Yi Qinghan did not know how to refuse. He could only say, "Qinxue, the secret realm is very dangerous. We can't take care of these two little girls. Moreover, we don't know their cultivation and combat strength very well." Wu Qin, immediately patted her big chest and said confidently, "Kind big brother, don't worry. We have something to protect our lives. However, it's our first time going to the secret realm and we're not familiar with it. As long as you bring us along, we promise not to cause you any trouble." Yes, yes, yes. Wu Sheng nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Yi Qinghan really didn't know Wu Qin and Wu Sheng. He also didn't know that Emperor Yi and Bai Shaoxing had reincarnated as saintesses. Even if he did, Yi Qinghan wouldn't know that they were saintesses. Where are the two of you from? Yi Qinghan began to probe the bottom line. Since Jian Qinxue had spoken, he had to investigate thoroughly. We are from a small family in a small city next to the martial supremacy's sacred ground. You definitely don't know this, but my father was heavily injured because of us. He needs the special heavenly red thunder spirit from the shrouding sky secret realm as a catalyst to save him. Please take us along for the sake of our filial piety. Wu Sheng looked at Yi Qinghan hopefully. The divine bird stared into the eyes of the two little beauties and whispered, Master, these two little fellows are definitely lying. This divine bird has told so many of these lies. How can they fool me? The flickering light in the depths of their eyes tells me that they are fooling you. The divine bird had told so many lies that its eyes had long been refined into the golden gaze fiery eyes. It was the only one who could fool others, but not many people could fool it. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. Just as he was about to reject Wu Sheng and Wu Qin's request, the divine bird said, Bring them along. We can see what they are up to. Yi Qinghan thought about it carefully and agreed. He nodded and said, Let's follow them then. Wu Qin and Wu Sheng's tears turned into smiles. They thanked him profusely and flattered him. However, compared to the divine bird, they were much weaker. Jian Qinxue did not know what these two little girls were thinking. In fact, they really wanted to rely on the crazy sect to enter the shrouding sky secret realm. The three experts behind them could not enter the shrouding sky secret realm, and they did not want to enter the secret realm with the martial supremacy's sacred ground. Therefore, they wanted to rely on the crazy sect. However, Yi Qinghan did not know either. He said to Jian Qinxue with a voice transmission, These two little girls are not simple. Be careful. What they say is also a lie. Don't expose them. I want to see what they are up to. Jian Qinxue's expression did not change. She always had a smile on her face and reached out to hold the two little beauties. Although Yi Qinghan was wary of them, she told herself in her heart that these two did not have any malicious intentions and wanted to get along with her. Fozhen Demon Venerable signaled with his eyes and stepped out of the valley alone. Outside the valley, the night was beautiful and the scenery was picturesque. There were flames everywhere. Fozhen Demon Venerable stood outside the valley and waited for Yi Qinghan. Da. Yi Qinghan stepped out of the valley and asked, Senior, do you have any doubts? Fozhen Demon Venerable frowned and said, The aura of these two people is somewhat familiar. They should be the saintesses of some sacred ground. Don't you think it is strange that they flattered you and insisted on entering the shrouding sky secret realm with the crazy sect? Yi Qinghan shrugged and smiled bitterly. That is why I kept them. I want to see what they are up to. Fozhen Demon Venerable reminded him in a low voice, You will get burned. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and replied, It's better than having a dark flame that can burn me at any time. Let me figure out their identities first. Can you help me keep an eye out for any experts in the vicinity? If they're really from the Holy Lands, and they're both holy maidens, the Holy Lands would never allow them to move around alone. There must be experts protecting them, and they should be nearby. Won't their identities be revealed once we find out who their guardians are? Fozhen Demon Venerable nodded and pretended to look around calmly. However, his divine sense was slowly roaming around. In the martial Tao perfected cultivator sacred ground, the three middle-level masters were standing in the distance and watching, afraid that something would happen to the two little ancestors. Just as they were staring at the crazy sect, Fozhen Demon Venerable searched for a long time and finally confirmed that the guardians behind Wu Qin and Wu Sheng were the three of them. People from the martial Tao perfected cultivator sacred ground. Fozhen Demon Venerable frowned and pondered. It seemed that he had some connection with Yi Qing Han and the martial Dao perfected cultivator Sacred Ground. Go and ask them if their surname is Wu. If it is, come back and tell me, Fozhen Demon Venerable said calmly. Yi Qing Han turned back to the valley and found Jian Qinxue and the two little girls chatting happily. He smiled and stepped in front of the three girls and said nonchalantly, Miss Wu, what is your name? Since we are traveling together, it will be easier for us to address each other, right? Wu Qin, and Wu Sheng, were stunned at the same time and muttered, how do you know our surname is Wu? Yi Qing Han suddenly laughed. These two little girls were still too inexperienced to be able to find out the truth with a casual lie. He said, your family is here to pick you up. Wu Qin heard this and immediately scolded, didn't you tell them not to come along? Wu Sheng stood up and scanned the group. When she did not see the three middle-level masters, she realized that she had been fooled. She quickly kicked Wu Qin to stop her from spilling the beans. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into an evil smile and stepped out of the valley. Chapter 18-17. Outside the valley, Yi Qinghan came before Fozhen Demon Sage and whispered, both of them have the surname Wu. They should be saintesses. Hearing this, Fozhen Demon Sage was even more convinced that the three Middle Realm experts on the mountain peak were the protectors of the two beauties. He took a step forward and left through the void. The order of heaven and earth could not be broken by an eternal being. Upper realm experts could also fly, but only for a short period of time. After a while, Fozhen Demon Sage appeared halfway up the mountain peak. The three experts were shocked as they did not expect to be discovered from so far away. Senior Fozhen, I'm Wu Sihai from the Martial Dao Sage Sanctuary. These are my two younger brothers, Wu Shanhe and Wu Zhongtian. Our two little ancestors want to enter the secret territory, but they do not want to go with the people from the sanctuary. That's why they came to you. If it's not convenient for you, you can refuse, but please do not hurt them. The leading Middle Realm expert quickly bowed and said. Fozhen Demon Sage frowned and looked at the three of them. He asked coldly, are you sure you don't have any other intentions? You have to understand that if you are carrying out a mission, please do not provoke me. Senior Fozhen, do you think we will let our two little ancestors carry out the mission personally? Our old ancestor will not allow it. Wu Sihai smiled bitterly. Fozhen Demon Sage saw that the three of them did not seem to be faking it and turned to leave. In the valley, the two beauties pouted and looked at Yi Qinghan with dissatisfaction. However, Yi Qinghan kept staring at them as if he would chase them away if they did not reveal their true identities. If we tell you, will you take us with you? Wu Qin stared at Yi Qinghan with her big clear eyes. She was like a little girl asking for candy and would not give up until she got what she wanted. We'll see, Yi Qinghan said coldly. The two beauties were very dissatisfied, but they still gave in. Wu Sheng said seriously, we are disciples of the Martial Dao Sage Sanctuary. We did not want to go with the group of juniors, so we came to you. We found you out of thousands of forces and only trusted you. You don't trust us. You really make me sad. That's right. We trusted you so much, but not only did you not help us, you even doubted us and tested us. Our pure hearts are about to be broken. Wu Qin's eyes were brimming with tears as if she had been greatly wronged. Yi Qinghan pursed his lips. These two girls might be able to trick others, but to trick him? The fire was a little lacking. Your father is an eternal, right? Yi Qinghan asked. Why are you still asking when you already know? The two women reprimanded him in unison. Yi Qinghan sneered and said faintly, in order to enter the Shrouding Sky secret realm with us, you actually cursed your own father. You two are really weird. Jian Qinxue looked at the two little girls, whose eyes were filled with tears, and said with heartache, husband, forget it. These two little girls are obviously inexperienced. What do they know? Since they want to follow us, just let them. The cultivation of the saintess of the Holy Land will not be weak. We are already few in number, and the more people we have, the more helpers we will have. Yi Qinghan sighed. He really did not want to disappoint Jian Qinxue. For so many years, in addition to accompanying the Wang family, he taught the children. It was not easy for him to find a girl to chat with. How could he force her to leave? Well, you two talk. I'll have a simple chat with my brothers. Yi Qinghan shook his head and left. The group of people from the crazy sect was still talking about the mysteries of Taoism and talking about their own experiences, so that everyone could improve and improve together. Yi Qinghan also sat down and listened carefully to their experiences. He helped them improve some of the wrong routes. Finally, he told his own experiences without reservation, so that everyone could learn from his own cultivation methods and essence. They chatted like this for dozens of days and nights. Everyone made rapid progress, and their shortcomings were almost all corrected. Then they began to attack and practice, especially Lin Wuqian's swordsmanship experience. The sword masters of the crazy sect were practicing. Lin Wuqian did not hold back at all, and the crazy sect entered a stage of crazy development. In the end, Yi Qinghan took out 2 bottles of elixirs, which were the blood power elixir and the blood power elixir. He gave each of the elixirs to the 9 strongest people. Each of them had 2 elixirs, which could at least save their lives. These 2 elixirs complement each other and eliminate the side effects. They can instantly increase your combat strength by hundreds of times, almost reaching the middle level. Even if you are not invincible in the secret realm, you can deter the weak. Therefore, you should use them carefully. Don't use them together, because after using them, the divine power in your body will be exhausted for 3 days. Yi Qinghan explained calmly. This was his last life-saving trump card, and now he did not hesitate to give it to this group of brothers. The other members of the insane sect did not change their attitude just because Yi Qinghan did not give them a life-saving divine elixir pill. This kind of divine elixir could only be used in the hands of those who could really use it. Lin Wuqian and the others put away the blood power elixir and the blood power elixir. Some words did not need to be said. Yi Qinghan absolutely trusted the crazy sect with his life, so there was no need to thank him. The time of the secret realm was getting closer and closer, and the pressure was getting stronger and stronger. Yi Qinghan finally warned, this time, the shrouding sky secret realm will be very dangerous. You must not trust the people of hell, blessed Buddha temple and the bounty hunters, including the sword holy land. In short, when we are in the shrouding sky secret realm, we are the closest. Everyone else should keep a certain distance. In the central area of the tribe, there were 3,000 strong cultivators from the Holy Lands and the 100 great clans. Except for the 3 great academies of the sky-reaching cult, the other forces were all present. More than 3,000 strong cultivators were sitting in the main hall. Only Xia Jiolong and an old man from the Oshi Holy Land were sitting on the main seats. Xia Jiolong looked at the crowd with a sneer and asked coldly, "Did you all discuss in advance and tell me the answer directly? Who made the decision not to allow mid-level cultivators to participate in the shrouding sky secret realm?" There were more than 3,000 people in the main hall, but no one answered. No one wanted to be the first to speak. But everyone understood that if they allowed mid-level cultivators to enter the shrouding sky secret realm, then they would not be able to get the flying immortal elixir. The old man from the Oshi Holy Land had white hair and wrinkled skin. He did not look like a powerful supreme cultivator at all. His shriveled body contained endless power. He could control the 5 elements, 10,000 laws, and 10,000 daos with a wave of his hand. 9 Dragons Crown Prince, there is no need to be so angry. This old man did not know about this before, but I agree with everyone's decision. Mid-level cultivators are too destructive. There are so many people entering the secret realm this time. Even if we old fellows give the little ones a chance to gain experience, we should give up our positions. The old man saw that no one wanted to offend Xia Jiulong and said seriously. The two transcendental powers were not on good terms, so there was no need to pretend. Xia Jiulong's lips curled up and he clenched his fists. He knew that this rule was directed at him. But if the 3,000-strong sects, the 100 great clans, and the Holy Lands all nodded, he could not go against the will of the people of the world. Chapter 1818. Of the 3,000-strong sects, apart from not having an eternal being, none of them were much weaker than a Holy Land. When the 3,000-strong sects joined forces, any Holy Land would have to give them face. The 100 great clans controlled the economic lifeline of the great world, and the Sacred Spirit Trading Company was one of them. Xia Jiulong glared at the crowd. His eyes were filled with cold flames, but the crowd didn't look at him. He couldn't vent his anger. Shouldn't you ask me and the people of the heavens reaching church before making a decision? I don't think it's a good idea to make a decision on your own and tell us the result, Xia Jiulong said with narrowed eyes. The crowd was still unwilling to answer. There were more than 3,000 experts in the hall, and their auras were restrained. No one was willing to stand out. If no one says anything, this prince will overturn your decision. Xia Jiulong said coldly. At this moment, the experts finally raised their heads and looked directly at Xia Jiulong. There aren't many Middle Realm cultivators under Bai Wan Sui. You can sweep them all by yourself. Crown Prince, if we don't restrict you from entering, what is there to gain in the Shrouding Sky Secret Realm? Eternal World has always been dominated by your sect. Thus, we have nothing to say about that. However, after entering the heaven-shrouding pocket dimension, there must be fairness. That's right. 9 Dragons Crown Prince, you're a dignified middle-level cultivator. Don't tell me you have the nerve to compete for treasures with a group of juniors. They were not afraid of offending Xia Jiulong at all. The various major forces also voiced their support. No matter how powerful the holy empires were, they would not be able to contend against the entire great world. Moreover, there were people from the Oshi Holy Land behind them. Even if Xia Jiulong wanted to refute, he would not be able to do so. After all, everyone was speaking the truth. 9 Dragons Crown Prince, you are high above, your status is high and your strength is tyrannical. You really shouldn't enter the Shrouding Sky Secret Realm with a group of juniors. If you really want to go in, you can go in alone after the Shrouding Sky Secret Realm is over. I don't think anyone will have any objections. The elder from the Oshi Holy Land suggested lightly. Xia Jiulong saw that none of the major sects and clans supported the Central Earth Holy Empire and felt helpless. After all, everyone wanted to obtain the Flying Immortal Divine Herb. A Flying Immortal Divine Herb was equivalent to several eternal experts. If it was refined into a Flying Immortal Divine Herb, it was very likely that 9 eternal experts would appear. Then, they would be second only to the Holy Empire of the Central Plains, and they would become the second most powerful force in the great world. Even the Sky-reaching Church and the Oshi Holy Land would not be able to compete with them. Blinded by greed. The law does not punish the majority. Xia Jiulong could only snort and say, in that case, let's wait for the arrival of the Transcending Heaven Church. If they agree, I won't go in. Yi Qinghan seemed to be able to feel the chilling aura from the central area of the tribe. He stared at the central area and knew that this meeting would determine the safety of their trip to the Shrouding Sky Secret Land. The 3,000 sects and the 100 great clans are united. They know that only by working together can they snatch some benefits from the Saint Lands. Therefore, the Saint Lands must have given in this time. We just have to wait patiently. Magic God said faintly. Yi Qinghan nodded and calculated the time. It would open in about 20 years. The Sky-reaching Church hadn't appeared yet. Yi Qinghan had to pay special attention to it. Since Yan Yunbei had disappeared, he hadn't shown up yet. He wasn't dead either. He must be in the holy lands of the major sections. Although he wasn't in the other forces, there was a chance that he was in the sky-reaching church. Yi Qinghan was unwilling to give up hope. Several days later, the sky was shrouded in auspicious clouds. The sky was clear for tens of thousands of li, white clouds and blue skies stretching as far as the eye could see. Immortal energy lingered about, and the cold energy dissipated. It was actually much warmer. On the second day after the weather improved, flying cranes appeared in the sky one after another, pulling flying palaces. The banners fluttered in the wind. The sky-reaching church seemed to be able to calculate the weather here. They actually arrived late at this time. Screech! The cranes let out a long cry. Immortal energy filled the air. Seven-colored divine light covered half of the mountains and rivers, alarming the strong cultivators around. Whoosh! The cranes descended, and the flying palaces appeared in everyone's sight. Tens of thousands of strong cultivators came down. Half of them were from the top 3 schools. The rest were independent cultivators from the sky-reaching Holy Land and the strong cultivators from the various forces. Yan Yunbei followed the crowd down the palaces. Yi Qinghan stared at the group of people, but there were too many of them. He couldn't be sure if Yan Yunbei was in the crowd or not. Yi Qinghan quickly found Jian Shisan and asked, "Brother Shisan, are you familiar with the sky-reaching church?" Jian Shisan shook his head in confusion and asked in confusion, "Why? Are you related to the sky-reaching church?" Yi Qinghan quickly explained, "There's still one person from the crazy sect who hasn't arrived. He was seriously injured in the land of despair and was rescued by someone. He hasn't shown up yet. However, his life plate is still there, which means that he's not dead. There's no sign of my brother in the other powerful sections. I suspect that he's in the sky-reaching church. If you're familiar with him, you can help me ask the sky-reaching church." Speaking of the sky-reaching church, Jian Shisan subconsciously looked at magic god demon Venerable in the valley. He smiled bitterly and said, "My holy land of Swordway is very far from the sky-reaching church. There are several holy lands and hundreds of strong sects in between. We don't have any interactions. However, I still have to remind you that the relationship between the magic god demon Venerable and the sky-reaching church is not good. Very bad. You may have a conflict when the time comes." Yi Qinghan nodded thoughtfully. The world knew that the sky-reaching church and the heavenly demon sect were enemies. It was impossible for him not to know. However, whether Yan Yunbei was in the sky-reaching church was very important. At least, he could convey goodwill to the higher-ups of the sky-reaching church through him. "Brother Shisan, accompany me to the sky-reaching church's camp. You're one of the holy sons of the holy land of Swordway. They will at least give you a chance to speak." Yi Qinghan asked in a serious voice. Jian Shisan nodded and took the initiative to walk to the central area. On the right side of the shrouding sky secret realm was the area where the sky-reaching church had set up camp. The Central Earth Holy Empire was on the left side. This was an unwritten rule. In this eternal world, besides the Western Holy Land and the Central Earth Holy Empire, the most powerful sect was the sky-reaching church. Moreover, the sky-reaching church's 3 great schools in the eastern region was much stronger than the Western Holy Empire. Even the Holy Emperor of the Central Earth Holy Empire had to give face to the sky-reaching church. The sky-reaching church's leader and the dean of the 3 great schools. These 4 experts' cultivation bases were much stronger than the holy emperors of the other holy lands. Especially the sky-reaching church's leader, he and the holy emperor of the Central Earth Holy Empire were brothers. The 2 of them sped through the mountains and kept approaching the central area. At this moment, the 3,000-strong sects, the 100 great clans and the various holy lands had gathered together. Even the leaders of the 3 great schools of the sky-reaching church had come. Xia Jiulong looked at the leaders of the three great schools and said in a deep voice, I wonder if the three seniors are willing to agree to their wishes. Yuan Hong, Zhengfa and Tianxi, the three Tao masters, were the leaders of the three great schools. They were upper-level experts. Even Xia Jiulong had to respectfully address them as seniors. Yuan Hong, Zhengfa and Tianxi looked at each other and then looked at the attitude of the thousands of experts around the hall. They understood everyone's fear and said lightly, since everyone doesn't want the nine-dragon crown prince to enter the shrouding sky secret realm, then let the Holy Empire have more people to enter. This way, everyone will have a chance. It's fair. Xia Jiulong clenched his fists. A fingerprint was left on the table but he didn't act out. He said calmly, since everyone says so, I won't say anything more. Middle-level experts are not allowed to enter the shrouding sky secret realm. They won't be allowed next time. From now on, they won't be allowed. Whoever dares to break this rule, don't blame me for being impolite. Chapter 18-19. No matter how strong Xia Jiulong was, he had to give way to the 3,000-strong sects and the 100 great clans. The people from Oshi sacred ground laughed. It was a victory that didn't belong to them, but they felt good after disgusting the Central Earth Holy Empire. The banquet ended unhappily. Xia Jiulong's words decided the fate of the Middle Realm cultivators. From now on, they couldn't enter the secret realm anymore. Yi Qinghan and Jian Shisan were approaching the shrouding sky secret realm. Although Yi Qinghan had fought a great battle, the only people who knew him were the strong masters. Most of the young disciples did not go to watch. They were not qualified to stand with the leaders of the strong sects, unless they were close to the camp of the insane sect. The sky-reaching school members were setting up camp. At this moment, Yan Yunbei was like the others, resting and organizing his own camp. After all, he still had to stay here for a long time. The defense of the camp was tight. It was all guarded by the sky-reaching school members. The disciples of the three great schools were all inside. It covered an area of more than 100 square miles. Trying to find someone here was like finding a needle in a haystack. After all, the disciples of the three great schools didn't know how many experts there were, let alone their names. Jian Shisan arrived outside the camp. The guards coldly stopped Jian Shisan and Yi Qinghan. Halt! The camp isn't finished yet. We're not receiving guests. A strong guard said coldly. Yi Qinghan quickly said, Tao friend, we're from the Sword Holy Land. I wonder if there's a Tao friend called Yan Yunbei in your sect. He's around the 5th level of the sector lord. The guard sneered and said in disdain, my sky-piercing school has trillions of disciples, countless of them are at the sector lord level 5 and below. Who knows how many of them there are? Do you think I should know everyone's name? Go away. I don't care if you're from the Sword Holy Land or other holy lands. Leave quickly. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. Hua! A few guards pulled out their swords and walked over, forcing the two to retreat. The sky-reaching school was so strong. Even if they were from the Central Earth Holy Empire, as long as Xia Jiulong didn't come personally, they wouldn't give anyone face. Sword 13 shook his head repeatedly, and pulled Yi Qinghan back. Forget it. If you're not in a hurry, then it wouldn't be too late to look for it after we enter the secret realm. Sword 13 suggested. Yi Qinghan knitted his eyebrows tightly. He couldn't confirm whether Yan Yunbei was in the sky-reaching church or not. He could only give up. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth it to offend the sky-reaching church. Not long after Yi Qinghan left, Yan Yunbei walked out from inside the camp. More than 10 disciples of the Jia Yard followed him. Their relationship was quite harmonious. More than 10 people walked towards the center of the tribe, brushing past Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan and Jian Shisan bought some necessary divine pills and weapons in the central area of the tribe and returned to the insane sect's territory. Time slowly passed. Yi Qinghan would occasionally practice hard in the camp. Sometimes, he would go outside the camp of the Transcending Heaven cult. He hoped to meet Yan Yunbei. However, Yan Yunbei hadn't come out since the last time. After more than 10 years, Yi Qinghan finally didn't go back. Instead, he cultivated in peace, hoping to break through to the lower half-step eternal realm. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't cross the barrier. The divine bird, on the other hand, had reached the 7th level of the realm lord. The other divine pets, including the multicolored snake, the divine eagle, and the star-twining vine, advanced very quickly. In terms of realm, they were almost on par with Yi Qinghan. There was only a small gap between them. There was still a month before the opening of the Shrouding Sky secret realm. Many forces finally became lively. Everyone in the insane sect stopped cultivating. Only a few people were still at the 7th level of the realm lord. The rest were either at the 8th or 9th level of the realm lord, but no one had stepped into the half-step eternal realm. Wu Qin, and Wu Sheng had been quiet for more than 10 years. It was a miracle. After all, they couldn't stay idle in the martial Dao Sage sacred ground. The two of them might be the youngest 9th level of the realm lord in the world. Although Tong Tong still looked like a child, his age was obvious. Everyone sat cross-legged by the bonfire, talking and laughing. Yi Qinghan sat in the center, explaining to everyone what to pay attention to when entering the secret realm. This was all based on his experience. Fozhen Demon Sovereign was most worried about Lin Wuqian's safety. His previous sword strike had exposed his talent. He was afraid that some of the sacred grounds would want to kill him. No one wanted another eternal realm to be born in the macro world, especially with the addition of a sacred ground. When you enter the secret realm, don't split up. Remember, you're entering to gain experience, not to snatch treasures. Everyone should increase their knowledge. Even if the flying immortal sacred medicine appears in front of you, you must leave. That thing isn't something you can interfere with. Fozhen Demon Sovereign reminded in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan and the others nodded solemnly. Everyone understood that Fozhen Demon Sovereign had no hope of advancing. He could only pin all his hopes on Lin Wuqian. He treated Lin Wuqian like his own son, afraid that something would happen to him. Every word he said now was to save everyone's lives. Senior, you don't have to worry too much. Middle realm grade experts aren't allowed to enter. I have 2 blood-boosting sage pills and blood power divine pills. As long as I take them, I'll be invincible. Zhou Yi, as the crazy sect's foreign aide and the only half-step eternal sovereign expert, spoke with confidence. Fozhen Demon Sovereign sneered. So what? It will only temporarily push your realm to the high level of the middle realm. You can kill 10 lower realm experts, but how many lower realm experts are there in the secret realm? Even if only 2 lower realm experts enter, there will be more than 7,000 lower realm experts. So, after you enter, keep a low profile. Don't try to be brave. Even if the Oshi Holy Land attacks you, they will have to avoid the sharp edge. When the time comes, the people of the Central Earth Holy Empire will naturally help you. Zhou Yi smiled awkwardly and could only give up. Don't tell me we don't want anything when we enter the secret realm. Then what are we going to do? Qitian Monkey King asked with some dissatisfaction. Everyone in the crazy sect had gone through life and death to reach this point. Everyone knew that a horse wouldn't get fat without food at night. If they wanted to be strong, they had to fight. They had to snatch resources from the Holy Lands. Without resources, everything was just empty talk. Except for 16th grade and flying immortal sacred medicines, you can snatch some of the other sacred medicines at your discretion. But don't fight with the Holy Lands and the strong sections. They have too many experts. Each of the strong sects has 3 to 5,000 people scattered nearby. If you run into their encirclement, you won't even be enough to fill the gaps between the teeth of the strong sections. Fozhen Demon Sovereign warned in a cold voice. The people of the crazy sect didn't believe it. With so many crazy sect members joining forces, even if the Holy Lands surrounded them, they could still tear a path out. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. He knew the nature of the people of the crazy sect the best. They would never not participate in the fight for resources because they were afraid of death. What's more, entering the secret realm was the beginning of the crazy sect's establishment as one of the 3,000-strong sects. Chapter 1820. The end of the secret realm would mark the rise of Guangzhou. This was the consensus of everyone in Guangzhou. Although Fozhen Demon Ancestor was worried about Lin Wuxian wasn't worried at all. He had died countless times over the years because of Yi Qinghan. Even if he died this time, it would be worth it. A month passed quickly. 3,000 strong sects, holy lands, and 100 great clans had gathered. They were obviously the first to enter the secret realm. Guangzhou was in the middle. This was specially arranged by the 3 holy lands to make use of Yi Qinghan. Xia Jiulong stood at the entrance of the secret realm and stared at the people entering. His eyes flashed coldly. A middle-level cultivator would never dare to pretend to be a lower-level cultivator to enter the secret realm. Otherwise, Xia Jiulong would definitely kill them. More than 3,000 experts were standing outside. No one could fish in troubled waters. At the entrance of the secret realm, rays of light shone in all directions. The seal of the array was opened. The Holy Empire of Central Earth, Oshi Holy Land, and Sky-Reaching Cult were the first to step into the secret realm. Immortal Qi lingered in the secret realm. Everything was still in its original state. The ancient trees towered into the sky. Some of the plants had already defied the heavens and turned into monsters. They looked harmless, but once they went berserk, even a middle-level cultivator would be killed instantly. The sky was blue and white. The clouds rolled in the sky. There was no end to it. The heaven-shrouding secret realm was vast and boundless. Huge beasts smashed mountains and birds covered the sky. This was one of the most dangerous secret realms among the 10 great secret realms. Screech! The eagles roared and the mountains and rivers moved. The entire heaven-shrouding secret realm seemed to be no smaller than the eternal world. There was no end to it at all. The spiritual qi was dense and there were countless divine herbs. It opened once every 10,000 years. Even if the experts from the outside world entered once to plunder, they could recover in 10,000 years. The gravity and order here were similar to the outside world. Except for the eternal ones, the upper-level cultivators could only fly for a short period of time. There were thousands of mountains, valleys, and extremely deep cliffs. If they fell, they would definitely die. More than 20 experts from the Holy Lands quickly stepped into the secret realm and rushed in all directions. Following closely were the experts from the 100 great clans. There were countless handsome men and beautiful women. All of them were as beautiful as jade and as beautiful as flowers. Their cultivation was definitely first class. 30 to 50,000 people entered the shrouding sky secret realm. Like a grain of sand in the ocean, they quickly disappeared into the mountains and forests. Yi Qinghan and the others were waiting at the intersection. In front of them were the 3,000 strong sects, and behind them would be them. Do you think there are any natives in the shrouding sky secret realm? Or are there experts who didn't come out 100,000 years ago? Jiang Jingtian asked curiously. Maybe. It's such a big world. How could there be such a coincidence? How could he make it back in time? Wu Sheng'e replied playfully. The secret zones only open once every 10,000 years. 10 secret zones open one after another. If someone really lived here for 100,000 years, they would probably go crazy. Wu Qin curled her lips and said. When Yi Qing Han heard this, he was a little alarmed. If he could survive in the shrouding sky mystic realm for 100,000 years, he would definitely be able to reach the upper level. If you meet someone with messy hair or a retard in the shrouding sky mystic realm, you must leave as soon as possible. Do not communicate or fight with them. Yi Qing Han reminded firmly. To be able to live alone in the shrouding sky mystic realm for 100,000 years, they would probably go crazy. They would definitely have a bad sense of security. They would be violent and bloodthirsty like a demon. Everyone quickly nodded. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The huge group moved quickly. The experts at the front were all running as fast as lightning. They held their divine weapons and were ready to unsheath at any time. They were extremely nervous. Wuxia and the other two middle-level experts from the martial Dao Supreme Sacred Ground were waiting at the side. When they found Wu Qin and Wu Sheng they immediately said, "Little ancestor, you must be careful." "Alright, you guys are so annoying." The two little beauties waved their hands and said, "You guys wait for us outside. We will go in and have some fun. Nothing will happen in 1,000 years." The two little beauties said it lightly. They were not even 1,000 years old. Yi Qing Han looked at the two and shook his head. If Jian Qinxue didn't insist on bringing them along, he wouldn't be willing to bring two bombs. If they died in there, it would cause a lot of trouble. "I will protect them." Tong Tong sat on Qitian Monkey King's shoulder. His tender voice revealed a trace of determination. Wu Sihai almost vomited blood. He really didn't understand what Kuang Zong was thinking. Why would they bring such a young child in? Could it be that he was at the 4th level of the Sector Lord realm? The strong sects weren't too strict with cultivators below the 4th level of the Sector Lord realm. Such people would be courting death if they entered. Therefore, not many cultivators below the 4th level of the Sector Lord realm would enter the Shrouding Sky Mystic realm. The strong sects all stepped into the Shrouding Sky Mystic realm and disappeared in the blink of an eye. It was as if they were teleported away. No matter how many people entered the Shrouding Sky Mystic realm, it didn't cause any waves. Huff huff huff. Dong dong dong. Yi Qing Han gasped excitedly and quickly stepped into the entrance under the lead of Zhou Yi. Xia Jiulong frowned and looked at the group of people from Guangzhou. Their cultivation was uneven, but the age gap was a bit big, especially when they brought a 6 or 7-year-old child. What the hell was this? Nye Tian was like a burly man carrying a giant axe, but he was more like a ferocious black bear. When he walked, the valley trembled. Yi Qing Han stared at the light ripples at the entrance and took the lead to step in. He was probably the only one who was unarmed, because his fist was the strongest divine weapon. Boom! As soon as they entered the Shrouding Sky Mystic realm, they landed on a flat plain. They looked around and asked, "Which direction should we go?" The divine bird stretched its head. Its neck was almost elongated. Its eyes flashed with a thieving light, and its saliva flowed out. "Ha ha ha, I'm rich. So many treasures." The divine bird laughed exaggeratedly. Yi Qing Han shook his head. In less than 2 breaths, all the people from Guangzhou had appeared in the Shrouding Sky Mystic realm. Feeling the majestic spiritual qi around them, they exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi and exchanged it for a mouthful of fresh spiritual qi. They liked this place very much. "Let's go east." Yi Qing Han saw that the divine bird was dumbfounded, so he made the decision himself. He rushed to the east with the 30 people and quickly disappeared into the plain. Yeah. What a beautiful place. It's much more beautiful than our holy land of martial arts. Why don't you make this place our headquarters? Wu Sheng shouted excitedly. Her voice was clear and ethereal, as pleasant as the chirping of a bird. That's right. Why don't we occupy it? This place is so beautiful that only people come here once in 100,000 years. Wu Qin said shamelessly. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and was speechless. The 10 shrouding sky mystic realms were jointly owned by the Holy Lands and the 3,000-strong sects in the outside world. Who would dare to occupy them by force? Unless they didn't want to live anymore. Chapter 1821. The group quickly disappeared into the shrouding sky secret realm. They were like a grain of sand in a vast ocean, completely untraceable. Only level 13 and above divine herbs. No matter what they are, I want them all. With Yi Qinghan's order, the group pulled apart, like a swarm of locusts passing through, leaving not even a blade of grass behind. The 30 people were less than 1,000 meters apart, and their divine senses could cover the area. They moved forward in a circular arc. Yi Qinghan and Zhou Yi were guarding the two sides. Yan Ao was in the middle, while Huang Peng and Gu Qingyu were guarding the two sides to prevent any accidents. Lin Wuqian was in the middle of Zhou Yi and Yan Ao. He could protect the others and also let Zhou Yi protect him. Jiang Jingtian was in the middle of Yan Ao and Yi Qinghan. The defensive formation was one strong person guarding the weak. One ring after another, like an indestructible net. Wu Qin, and Jian Qinxue were on the left side of Gu Qingyu, while Di Longtian and Nie Tian were on the right side. Even if they encountered a lower realm expert, they could hold him off for a while, allowing the other experts to come to their aid. After pulling open the net, Yan Ao waved the flag and sat on the back of the spirit-devouring godly eagle. He flew at a low altitude and scanned the surroundings, controlling the general situation. As long as there was something wrong, he could wave the flag and order everyone. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan released all of his divine pets. The multicolored snake, the chaos beast, the star-twining vine, the little golden crow, these divine pets were like wild horses. They were very intelligent and knew how to search for treasures. Under the influence of the divine bird, their vision was very high. They didn't even care about divine herbs below level 13. The star-twining vine was even more exaggerated. Thousands of vines stretched out, and the soul of the main vine followed Yi Qinghan. After each vine wrapped around a divine herb, it quickly retreated. Even the guardian beasts couldn't do anything to it. Whoosh! 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 The vines were quickly retracted, and the divine bird was constantly commanding the star-twining vine. 3,000 meters to the left, 500 meters to the right, keep going. Good. After raising you for so many years, you're finally useful. The divine bird stood on the main vine of the star-twining vine, looking majestic and arrogant. Yi Qinghan was too lazy to say anything to them. He focused all his attention on searching for better treasures in the distance. With his bare hands, he plundered whatever treasures he saw. He was like a wild beast, his fists sinking into flesh. The huge monster was several feet tall, but it was actually sent flying with a single punch. Huangzong's purpose in entering the secret realm was very clear. He was not here to fight with others, but for the divine herbs and treasures. The shrouding sky secret realm didn't lack mines and divine medicine resources. If someone could find a level 15 mine, they would be rich. If they casually sold some, it would be enough for them to establish a small sect. The Huangzong's people were really nothing. Those who really came to the shrouding sky secret realm were all overlords. A few hundred people would be the least. How could there only be 20 people? Divine herbs were everywhere, and the two sides of the cliff were the most luxuriant. Because they couldn't fly, even if someone found them, they didn't dare to take the risk to pick them. This time, the divine bird and the star-twining vine were lucky. The star-twining vine had countless vines, and it could instantly grab hundreds of divine herbs. Moreover, they were all level 14. As for level 13, it depended on its mood. If it was really rare, the divine bird would take special care of it. The divine bird was drooling as it wretchedly commanded the startwining vine. In a moment, it had grabbed a storage ring. Fortunately, they had prepared more this time. The Quang Zong's group really hadn't seen the world. When they saw a level 15 mine, they went crazy. Boom! In the central area, they finally encountered trouble. A giant beast like a small mountain, about 10 feet tall, waved its giant claws at the spirit-devouring god eagle. Fortunately, the spirit-devouring god eagle's reaction was fast enough, and it quickly climbed up with Yen Ao. The giant claws broke through the void and hit the mountain, and a small mountain was directly cut off. Swoosh! 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 Gu Qingyu and Huang Peng, the two great experts, were as fast as lightning. Their swords were like rainbows, and they were about to cut open the sky. They joined forces to kill the ferocious beast. They attacked from left and right, constantly cutting open the giant beast's defense. Soon, they killed it, and its blood flowed like a river. A place guarded by a giant ferocious beast must have a powerful divine herb. The group in the middle quickly gathered and joined forces to search. As expected, they found a level 15 divine herb, and it was a top-grade one. Jian Qinxue found it by accident, so she naturally had to grab it herself. The two little beauties didn't care about level 15 divine herbs. Those that could catch their attention were at least level 16 or even level 17 supreme divine herbs. Moreover, they entered the secret realm to play, not to search for treasures. They occasionally collected some divine herbs above level 14 for Jian Qinxue, and they didn't even look at level 13 divine herbs. More and more people entered the secret realm. Some forces started to kill each other when they met, and they even ignored the divine herbs. The valley was filled with blood. Roar! The giant beast was awakened. Countless ferocious birds tore through the void and flew over from afar. The secret realm was in chaos. Yi Qinghan had collected a storage ring full of divine herbs. The most inferior ones were 14-grade divine herbs, and half of them were 15-grade divine herbs. He kept risking his life to climb the cliffs, and he found a 16-grade divine herb. He was overjoyed, but he didn't know how many 16-grade divine herbs were found by the divine bird and the star-twisting vine. They were both experts in climbing cliffs and treasure hunting. Wherever the star-twining vine went, nothing grew. It devoured all divine herbs above level 10 and became stronger. However, it would probably take it a few decades to break through to the 9th layer of the Sector Lord realm. The star-twining vine was too strange. Most of these creatures died of starvation, and there weren't many treasures for them to devour. In the end, they couldn't advance and could only be trapped on a small star. They couldn't even break through to the monarch realm. There were too few level 16 divine herbs in the periphery, and there weren't many level 15 divine herbs either. It opened once every 100,000 years. How long had the great world existed? Perhaps even the Eternals didn't know. No matter how many divine herbs there were in the periphery, there wouldn't be enough for humans to plunder. Just as Yi Qinghan was running through the wilderness, his heart suddenly shrank, and he became more vigilant. He quickly took out the Rui bell. It was only the size of a wine cup. He looked around cautiously, but he didn't find any powerful creatures. How could this be? Yi Qinghan frowned and looked around. He did find a small force approaching, but there were only about 100 of them. The strongest among them was only at the lower realm. They weren't a threat to the Quang Zone. Shashasha, Yi Qinghan quickly moved closer to the group. He called back the little golden crow and the colorful snake, but he was still a distance away from the star-twining vine and the divine bird. Whoosh! Pa! One of the star-twining vines suddenly shook, and like a divine whip, it slashed the void and viciously hit somewhere. Bang! Just as Yi Qinghan looked over, a mantis-like creature suddenly rushed out of the valley. With a kick of its long legs, it jumped up a few hundred feet. It was as fast as lightning, and fiercely clamped down on one of the startwining vine's vines. It seemed to have effortlessly snapped the vine. Whoosh! 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 The startwining vine was furious. It mobilized thousands of vines to surround it. Like countless snakes slithering, they covered half of the valley. From the sky, they locked onto the giant brown mantis. Chapter 1822. Thousands of vines wrapped around the brown praying mantis. Yi Qinghan originally thought that the praying mantis was dead for sure. He was prepared to continue searching for creatures that could harm him, but before he could look away, the praying mantis cut off some of the vines and quickly swallowed them. The startwining vine could swallow anything, but now, its vines were being swallowed by another creature. Yi Qinghan's eyes widened as he stared in disbelief. Bang bang bang. The rest of the vines quickly wrapped around the praying mantis, but the praying mantis did a death roll. The vines wrapped around its body were quickly broken. Then, its two arms in front of it danced like a pair of knives. All the broken vines were rolled up in an orderly manner and swallowed into its stomach. Hiss hiss hiss. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. He had never seen such an exaggerated monster before. Fuck. What the hell is this? Help. The divine bird saw the praying mantis rushing towards the startwining vine and immediately shouted. The broken voice let out an earth-shattering howl as if it had been humiliated. The brown praying mantis grabbed several vines and quickly rushed towards the startwining vine. The startwining vine was also shocked. It had never seen a creature that was willing to swallow it. Countless vines were unable to stop the praying mantis's charge. Following that, an even larger praying mantis rushed out of the valley. Compared to the tiny praying mantis in front of it, it was like heaven and earth. It's a female praying mantis. Yi Qinghan was shocked. The tiny praying mantis was already so terrifying, so the female praying mantis was probably even more terrifying. Run! Yi Qinghan shouted. Whoosh! The startwining vine quickly abandoned some of its vines and fled with the divine bird. One of its vines wrapped around an ancient tree on the opposite side of the cliff. It swung over like a swing and rushed towards Yi Qinghan. However, the tiny praying mantis leaped up as if it was flying. The cliff that was dozens of meters wide could not stop it at all. Boom boom boom. The huge praying mantis rampaged. The mountain rocks and ancient trees were like rotten branches. They were all cut down by its huge praying mantis knife. Its strong hind legs could leap hundreds of meters. It was much faster than humans. Whoosh! When the startwisting vine was not far away from Yi Qinghan, the divine bird flew up and landed on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. It stared at the praying mantis with a frightened expression and shouted, "What kind of praying mantis is this? It's even more edible than the startwisting vine." Yi Qinghan frowned as he stared at the tiny mantids. Even though they were small, they were still much bigger and stronger than him. Especially those two thick and strong hind legs, they were extremely powerful. He reckoned that as long as they were kicked in the chest, even a lower-level expert would be stomped to death. The pincers in front had barbs and were incomparably sharp. As long as they pierced into the body of an expert, the divine power defense would definitely not be able to defend against them. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan put away the wishful bell and swapped it for the berserk saber. Bang! Frenzied Blade's blade was imbued with sharp divine power and terrifying destructive energy as it ruthlessly slashed towards the mantis. Boom! The energy shattered the mountain rocks as if it wanted to destroy the mountains and rivers. The white blade aura had already transformed into a long rainbow that rushed into the depths of the galaxy. In the blink of an eye, the mantis waved its huge pincers and collided with the blade. Yi Qinghan felt as if he was standing on a real divine weapon and not on a body of flesh and blood. A terrifying energy came from the back of the saber, causing the saber in his hand to almost fly out of his hand. Ha! Yi Qinghan roared angrily as a terrifying energy erupted from his waist. Borrowing the power of the mountains and rivers, he instantly rushed onto the berserk saber and swept the tiny mantids away. Screech! The tiny mantis blades were almost cut in half. Flesh and blood splattered in all directions as they let out shrill cries. The female mantis at the back was even more enraged. It leaped 1,000 feet and rushed from the opposite side of the cliff to 100 meters away from Yi Qinghan. It directly caught the tiny mantids in mid-air and then placed them on the ground. It stared at Yi Qinghan with its green eyes. Its fangs were like blades, and its strong arms and hind legs were slightly bent. It was ready to attack. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. He almost couldn't withstand the tiny mantid's strength just now. If this female mantis went berserk, even if he attacked with all his strength, he probably wouldn't be able to withstand its attack. You fight first. I'll get reinforcements for you. The divine bird spread its wings and flew up to the main vine of the startwining vine. It shouted, "Why aren't you running?" Yi Qinghan didn't have time to bicker with it. Even if it had stepped into the realm of a sector lord, he didn't think of asking it for help. It would be good enough if it didn't help him instead. The startwining vine was also frightened by this mantis. It didn't even care about its master as it fled into the distance. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The mountain rocks beneath the giant mantis' feet were all crushed. It was accumulating power, and the two mantis blades in front of it were emitting a cold light. Boom boom boom. Yi Qinghan's blood and qi churned, and his dragon blood boiled. His body emitted a powerful dragon's aura. He originally wanted to intimidate the giant mantis, but this fellow seemed to like high-level bloodlines very much. It could evolve by devouring blood and qi, so it became even more bloodthirsty. Boom! Hua! The mantis waved its giant pincers, making a whistling sound in the air. It directly smashed towards Yi Qinghan. Bang! Yi Qinghan used all his strength to smash the giant pincers. From bottom to top, it carried the power of heaven and earth. This strike was enough to destroy mountains and valleys. Its speed was extremely fast, and it ruthlessly chopped towards the giant mantis head. Roar! Wang, the 7-foot berserk mantis exposed its dominance, but it was actually caught by the giant pincers. Boom! Woo woo woo, the giant mantis didn't manage to chop off the berserk mantis. It directly pulled Yi Qinghan up from the ground and threw him ruthlessly. It actually threw Yi Qinghan several hundred meters away, and he crashed heavily into a hill. Bang! Hua! Yi Qinghan's body smashed through the rocks and crashed into the mountain. The long saber left his hand and pierced into the side of a mountain. If not for his freakish physical body, it would have taken his life. Fuck, this freak's strength is so strong. Yi Qinghan quickly climbed out of the hole. His bones creaked and his organs nearly shifted positions. The giant mantis thought that Yi Qinghan was dead for sure. The small mantids on its back raised their large mantis sabers and waved them in a show of force. They seemed to be very intelligent. However, when they saw Yi Qinghan crawling up, they became even angrier and charged towards him. Yi Qinghan grabbed at the sky and shouted angrily, "Saber, come!" Whing! The berserk mantis trembled and was pulled out from the side of the mountain. It transformed into a bolt of lightning and rushed back into Yi Qinghan's hand. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan clenched his hand and the berserk mantis transformed into a mark and returned to his bloodline. He then grabbed the Rui bell. Big! 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 Yi Qinghan grabbed the top of the Rui bell and constantly urged it. In the blink of an eye, the bell's mouth was about to cover the sky. Yi Qinghan stomped his feet and rushed into the sky with the Rui bell. He directly enveloped the two mantids from above. Whing! The Rui bell roared as it was struck by the force. It reverberated far away. The majestic sound of the bell reverberated through the ages, as though it came from the ends of the endless wilderness. Chapter 1823. Yi Qinghan was like a god of war as he held the Rui bell in his hand. Beams of light shot out in all directions as Buddhistic light stretched out for thousands of miles. It was as though he was a true Buddha. The Rui bell was filled with boundless Buddhistic dharma as it bound the two ferocious beasts within. Suppress! Yi Qinghan roared as the bell's chimes turned even more awe-inspiring. It was as though an ancient Buddha was reciting Buddhist scriptures, crushing all resistance. Boom! Screech! The gigantic mantis cried out tragically as it tried to rush out of the Buddhistic light's encirclement. However, it was unable to break free from the Rui bell's shackles. A gigantic ancient Buddha appeared behind Yi Qinghan. Its hand blotted out the sky as it held the Rui bell and pressed down with the force of a thunderbolt. Boom! The Rui bell suppressed the two mantises within. There was another universe within the bell. After it suppressed the mantises, it rapidly shrank back to the size of a palm. Whine! The mantises constantly struck the Rui bell within the bell. The bell's chimes were mighty and deafening. It caused one's lifeblood to churn as though they were about to die. Unfortunately, the bell's chimes only reverberated within the Rui bell's universe. There was no response outside. The Rui bell's universe of Buddhistic Dharma was filled with scriptures. No matter how the two mantises attacked, they were unable to break through the Rui bell's universe. Instead, they were suppressed by the Buddhist scriptures and constantly tempered. Moments later, they were on the brink of death. Only after using the Rui bell once did one realize how powerful it was. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed as he fiddled with the Rui bell. He realized that it was of the same type as the spear. It might even be of a higher level. At that moment, the divine bird had yet to escape. When it saw Yi Qinghan suppress the two ferocious beasts, it immediately turned back and exclaimed in a flattering manner, "Master is mighty. Once your hegemonic aura is released, the world submits to you. My respect for you is like a torrential river that flows endlessly. It's like the overflowing yellow river that cannot be stopped. Me too. Me too." The start-whining vine released a soul fluctuation as it flattered him. Yi Qinghan scoffed as his divine robes fluttered in the wind. He looked like a god of war as he waved his hand and kept the Rui bell. He said nonchalantly, "How many divine treasures have you searched? Are you willing to share some with me?" When the divine bird heard this, it immediately flattered Yi Qinghan by bringing all the sacred medicines that the star-twisting vine had found to Yi Qinghan. Then, it said wretchedly, "How can we split them up? What's ours is master's. Please keep them well. In the future, when we find them, we'll immediately bring them to you. You don't have to be polite with us spirit pets." "Oh," Yi Qinghan calmly replied with a single word. It was hard to tell if he was happy or angry. He casually took all the storage rings and discovered that the divine bird had actually separated all the different grades of godly herbs. There was actually an entire storage ring filled with 15th grade saintly herbs, and there were actually more than 30 16th grade saintly herbs. This was definitely better than the one he had taken. Yi Qinghan glanced at the two legendary pets in surprise. He realized that although these two were a little cheap, their ability to find treasures was still very strong. "Very good. Since you're so filial, I'll kindly accept it. In the future, you can keep the 13th grade saintly herbs for yourself. I don't need them." Yi Qinghan unceremoniously took all the 14th grade, 15th grade, and 16th grade saintly herbs and threw the 3 storage rings filled with 13th grade saintly herbs to the divine bird. After saying that, he turned around and left, leaving the divine bird and the star-twisting vine in despair in the cold wind. As the wind blew, the divine bird's feathers were messy. It stared at Yi Qinghan's departing back and muttered, "Do you think this divine bird is a beggar? Humph. Next time I find treasures, I should hide some more. The battle here didn't alarm anyone else. Or rather, Yi Qinghan had just finished the battle after being alarmed. The group of experts from the small sects only saw the Buddhist light soaring into the sky, surrounded by jewels and treasures. They thought that they had found some saintly herbs and hurriedly rushed over. The half-step Eternal Realm expert quickly discovered Yi Qinghan, and his figure flickered as he approached. Yi Qinghan quickly took out the wishful bell and retreated hundreds of steps, creating a distance between them. However, the lower realm expert still thought that Yi Qinghan had taken away the most precious saintly herbs and chased after him. As the distance between them got closer and closer, the more the lower realm expert looked at Yi Qinghan, the more familiar he felt. When he was about 300 meters away, he finally saw Yi Qinghan's identity. Coincidentally, this person had seen the battle between Yi Qinghan and Arthur and recognized Yi Qinghan. "It's you, Yi Qinghan from the insane sect." The lower realm expert frowned and looked at Yi Qinghan. His big hand was already on the hilt of his sword. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly as he narrowed his eyes at the newcomer and reminded in a deep voice, "Senior, my insane sect came here for resources, not to fight. We also have lower realm experts. Do you think your sect's 100 people can compete with my insane sect? It's just 20 people. Are you threatening this king?" The lower realm expert sneered. Yi Qinghan frowned. He didn't expect the other party to want to kill him. Yi Qinghan held the wishful bell and kept shaking his head. "Senior, this is not a threat, but a fact. We are evenly matched. We don't want to provoke trouble and make enemies. Presumably, you don't want to either. Why don't you retreat? You look for your treasures, and we will look for ours. The resources in this huge shrouding heaven's secret realm are enough for us to use." However, when the person saw that Yi Qinghan was unwilling to fight, he thought that Yi Qinghan was afraid of them. He immediately threatened, "If you want this king to retreat, it's easy. Hand over 10 storage rings filled with divine herbs and this king will not hurt you." "Ha ha ha. You idiot. My insane sect will only rob others, but we will never be robbed by others. My master just pitied your small sect and didn't want to rob you. But you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Before Yi Qinghan could speak, the divine bird mocked from the side. The lower plane cultivator was furious. He unsheathed his sword and pointed it at Yi Qinghan, tearing the sky apart. "This king will give you one last chance. Your lower realm experts will need at least an incense stick's worth of time to reach here. They can't save your life," the man said coldly. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He said lightly, "Since you don't cherish your life, I have nothing to say." "Big, big, big," Yi Qinghan suddenly shouted. The wishful belt shone with Buddhist light, covering the mountains and rivers. The ancient Buddha behind him quickly grabbed the wishful bell and descended from the sky, enveloping the lower realm expert. The lower realm expert was shocked. He pulled out his sword and stabbed at the wishful bell. The sound of the bell rang again, but he couldn't break through the wishful bell's attack. He was suppressed by the bell. Bang! The wishful bell suppressed him, but Yi Qinghan's body seemed to have been drained. He had used the wishful bell twice in a row and had used all his strength. The strength in his body was exhausted and he couldn't even stand up. "Protect me." Yi Qinghan couldn't even take back the wishful bell. He quickly sat on the ground and swallowed dozens of God power pills. The strength in his body quickly returned and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth turned into a light screen, enveloping him. The lower realm expert quickly gathered and kept approaching Yi Qinghan. However, they didn't find their grandmaster. They were shocked and didn't dare to get close to Yi Qinghan. At this time, Jiang Jingtian had crossed several cliffs and appeared in front of Yi Qinghan. Chapter 1824. More than 100 people surrounded them, but they didn't dare to move when they couldn't see their old ancestor. Jiang Jingtian stood in front of Yi Qinghan alone. His spear shook and his aura soared to the sky. "TSK TSK TSK, your old ancestor has been suppressed and you still came to die. You really lack intelligence." The divine bird clicked its tongue and said. Among the group of young experts, there were more than 10 ninth-level sector lords. The rest were around 5th or 6th level sector lords. If they were in a small region, they would definitely be a top-notch sacred ground. However, in Eternal World, they could only be considered as a small sect. They looked at Jiang Jingtian vigilantly and then looked at Yi Qinghan who was sitting cross-legged on the ground. Finally, they fixed their eyes on the Rui Bell. They were a little frightened. At this moment, Zhou Yi had already brought a large number of Kuang's sect experts to surround them. Hua! More than 20 eccentric sect experts, Zhou Yi, and the two little beauties surrounded the more than 100 people. Not long after, Yi Qinghan had recovered most of his divine power. He slowly stood up and waved his hand, keeping the Rui Bell in his arms. Looking at the group of people, his eyes flashed coldly and he snorted, "I understand now. In this shrouding sky secret realm, if we don't rob you, others will rob you. Instead of leaving you to other strong sects, why don't you let us take it? Where is my old ancestor? Let him out. Otherwise." The leader of the group was considered the backbone of the group. At this moment, he mustered up his courage and shouted at Yi Qinghan. Boom! Jiang Jingtian pierced through the void and nailed him to a withered mountain. The 100 people didn't dare to move. "Hand over all your resources. We only want resources and not lives. If you dare to talk nonsense with me, you will end up like that person," Yi Qinghan warned coldly. The group of experts had lost their backbone. In addition, the Kuang sect was too strong. They didn't dare to resist and could only hand over all their gains in the past few days. Even the extra storage rings were robbed. "Senior, can you return our old ancestor to us?" One of the beauties pleaded. "Dead. If you don't want to leave, then you don't have to. I'll give you a free ride." Yi Qinghan did not show any mercy. Now that this lower plane expert knew about the Rui Bell, he could not allow him to live. That group of people was so frightened that they hurriedly fled. Without any experts to gather, if they were to gather again, only death would await them. Therefore, in an instant, when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. The experts of a decent small sect dispersed and scattered in some rugged and difficult to traverse dangerous places, afraid that they would bump into the experts of other large sections. After the group of people left, Yi Qinghan forcefully killed the lower-level cultivator he was suppressing. He took all of his storage rings and threw the corpse out. He even took the defensive holy divinity garment and the divine sword. The corpses satisfied the twisting star Ting's craving, and Yi Qinghan beat up the two powerful mantises until they were on the verge of death. He then sent them out and looked at the mantises curiously. Bang! The female mantis exuded a golden light. Its entire body was a treasure. It was the best material for refining sacred weapons. This is called the Golden Sky Mantis. It is a 5th-grade vicious beast. Its 2 mantis blades are equivalent to 5th-grade top sacred weapons. It is the most powerful weapon for killing and bleeding. The barbs on its pincers are shocking. Once it pierces a person's body, it is very difficult to pull it out, Zhou Yi quickly explained. Yi Qinghan was very excited. He could make use of this female praying mantis, but the baby mantis had yet to mature. Even if he killed it, he wouldn't be able to obtain any good materials. There was no need to waste such a precious resource, so he tossed it far away. However, the baby mantis ran back and attached itself to the female mantis. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, demonstrating to Yi Qinghan. The female mantis was dying, but it protected the baby mantis under its body. It crawled in front of Yi Qinghan, constantly kowtowing and begging. Its wisdom was very high. Qing Han, this creature can be tamed. It is very powerful, even more powerful than human experts of the same level. You can catch it because you have a divine weapon that surpasses the half-step eternal sacred weapon. It is a pity to kill this creature. It is better to keep it as a spiritual pet. It is also good to use it as a means of transportation, Zhou Yi reminded him. Yi Qing Han thought about it. It was indeed a pity to kill it. It was better to use it as a means of transportation for Jian Qinxue. It could also protect Jian Qinxue's safety. Therefore, Yi Qing Han stared at the golden sky mantis and said coldly, "Since your wisdom is extremely high, I will not kill you. However, if you want to live, you must form a master-servant contract with my wife and protect her for life. Otherwise, I will kill your children and break your golden body." Squeak! Squeak! The female golden sky mantis kept kowtowing and did not dare to resist. It was afraid that Yi Qing Han would attack it again, but it was also afraid that its son would be killed by humans. Yi Qing Han pulled Jian Qinxue over. He held the Rui bell in his hand and looked at the female mantis vigilantly. He was also afraid that it would suddenly attack and hurt Jian Qinxue. However, the female mantis was very sensible and took the initiative to issue a master-servant contract. Jian Qinxue bit the tip of her tongue and flicked out a drop of her heart's blood. She directly formed a master-servant contract with the golden sky mantis. The two were bathed in golden light, and the contract was officially completed. Wu Qin, and Wu Sheng looked at Jian Qinxue and her mighty mount with envy. If they took it out, it would be very cool. The divine bird curled its lips in displeasure. This fellow was much more powerful than the divine pets in Yi Qing Han's possession. Even the star-twisting vine was afraid of it. Once the golden sky mantis appeared, it felt as if it was going to be defeated. This little divine bird is jealous. Wu Qin's big eyes swept over and saw the divine bird's unhappy look. She immediately mocked it. The divine bird retorted disdainfully, "People with different IQs can't work together. This kind of thing is pretty close. Why would this divine bird be jealous of it?" Everyone suddenly laughed. Although the divine bird's strength was not great, it could challenge the overlords with its mouth alone. Yi Qing Han sneered. It was unreliable to rely on a divine bird for help in a fight. It would already be good enough if it didn't cause trouble. However, it was an expert at finding treasures, and its cheap mouth could rival a feudal lord. "Everyone, let's speed up and go deeper. In the end, the good things may be taken away by the powerful sects and the wealthy families of the Holy Lands. The real good things are in the depths. We can't keep picking up things that others don't want." Zhou Yi reminded them. Only then did everyone from the Kuang sect stop smiling and look at Yi Qing Han, waiting for his instructions. Yi Qing Han threw a large number of divine pills to the female mantis. After it recovered its strength, he said, "Everyone, sit on its back and move forward. It will be much faster." The golden sky mantis was like a huge monster. It was more than 20 meters long and had a broad back. It was easy for it to carry 20 to 30 people. Everyone quickly stepped on the back of the golden sky mantis, and each person pulled a barb on its back. After Yi Qing Han asked Tong Tong to accept the small mantis as his spiritual pet, the female mantis led everyone to crush the mountain rocks and leaped 1,000 feet away. They were almost flying, constantly skimming over the cliffs. Chapter 1825. Inside the Shrouding Sky secret realm, the powerful sects seemed to have agreed that they would only search for treasures and not kill each other. However, the small sects and clans wanted to take advantage of the situation and kill each other. It had already reached a white-hot stage. Countless monsters seemed to have smelled the scent of blood. Birds flew into the sky and shuttled through the clouds. Beasts shuttled through the mountains. Roar! Roars echoed in the vast secret realm. The overlords' faces turned pale and their scalps went numb. There were too many monsters in the secret realm. They were in a state of hibernation all year round. Once they were awakened, they would definitely turn the secret realm upside down. Blood would flow like a river. Boom! A giant praying mantis stepped on the cliff and galloped from afar. The deepest part of the secret realm was where the resources were the most abundant. It was usually the battlefield of the 3,000-strong sects, the 100 clans, and the Holy Lands. There were no eternal sovereigns here. The strong sects were not much weaker than the Holy Lands. Every time they fought, blood would flow like rivers and corpses would pile up like mountains. In the end, some strong sects would be completely wiped out, leading to the fall of a strong sect. The people of the crazy sect rode the giant praying mantis and rushed into the depths. They wanted to get a share of the loot from the strong sects and the Holy Lands. The giant praying mantis shuttled through the valleys and over the cliffs. It rushed past hundreds of small forces and did not go down to snatch anything. It only stopped and it encountered some very important divine herbs. The divine bird was majestic. At this moment, there were very few divine herbs that could tempt it. A 15th grade divine herb could only make it hesitate for a moment. Only when it encountered a 16th grade divine herb would it be excited. After traveling for more than a month, several strong sects gathered in front of them. However, they did not fight. Instead, they were looking for something. Yi Qinghan ordered the golden sky praying mantis to slow down. They came to a secluded place and looked at the 4 strong sects searching around a radius of more than 300 miles. There must be some treasure. The divine bird looked around and said in confusion, "What are these idiots looking for? There is nothing good around here." Yi Qinghan did not believe that there was nothing here. Otherwise, it would not have attracted 4 strong sects to gather in such a small place. "Wait for me here. I will take the divine bird to the deeper parts," Yi Qinghan whispered. After he finished speaking, he rushed into the hinterland with the divine bird. Quite a number of masters were gathered here. Yi Qinghan quietly pounced forward, avoiding everyone's line of sight. He gripped the Rui bell tightly in his hand, ready to strike at any time to suppress the heroes. This was already considered the central region of the secret territory. There were ferocious beasts and divine herbs everywhere. However, that group of people didn't pay attention to the divine herbs. Instead, they were carefully searching for something in the grass. It seemed like they weren't looking for divine herbs, but some kind of living creature. Yi Qinghan's divine sense slowly spread out and extended in all directions. The divine bird looked around in confusion, but it didn't find anything good that attracted its attention. A bunch of brainless idiots. There isn't even a 16th ranked sacred medicine here. Why are you still wasting your time here? The heavenly bird looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain, exasperated. Yi Qinghan scanned the surroundings with his divine sense, but he still couldn't find anything good. Just as everyone was searching confidently, under everyone's eyes, a green toad flicked its forked tongue and crawled through the grass. Sometimes, it would burrow into the ground and move forward, emitting spiritual energy all over its body. This kind of toad had a very famous name. It was called the gold-devouring toad. It liked to devour mineral veins of 15th ranked and above. The higher the grade, the more it liked them. Eating them was like chewing on rotten leaves, and its teeth were extremely sharp. The gold-devouring toad's ability to find mineral veins was much better than the divine bird's. After all, it relied on finding mineral veins to survive. There was a saying in the outside world, the one who had the gold-devouring toad had a strong sect. A gold-devouring toad was equivalent to a huge sect. The gold-devouring toad crawled quickly, as if it had sensed danger. It didn't dare to show itself at all. Its body was quietly changing color, similar to the grassland. If it didn't move, divine sense wouldn't be able to detect it. If it moved, it would sway with the wind, making people think it was the wind blowing the grass. Suddenly, the divine bird looked in the direction of the gold-devouring toad in surprise, thinking it was seeing things. However, after a moment, the gold-devouring toad moved again, and it was even more certain. "Master, about 800 meters to the northeast, there is something good in the thistles and thorns." Hearing this, Yi Qing Han immediately sped up. His figure flashed as fast as lightning. Although the experts of the strong sects noticed Yi Qing Han, they didn't go forward to stop him because they didn't know his identity. They thought he was an expert from another sect. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Qing Han pounced on the gold-devouring toad. Sensing danger, the gold-devouring toad sped up, jumping dozens of meters away. Its speed was fast, and its control was exquisite. It could turn in the air above the thistles and thorns without touching them. Whoosh! The divine bird flew through the sky, cutting through the clouds to block the gold-devouring toad. This divine bird is here in person. Where do you think you're going? Whoosh! The divine bird stopped 100 meters in front of the gold-devouring toad, stepping on a weed, and said proudly. The gold-devouring toad's spirituality was not inferior to the divine bird, but its intelligence was definitely not as high as the divine bird. It couldn't open its mouth to speak, but it glared at the divine bird and opened its mouth. Some of its slender fangs were almost invisible, but they were extremely sharp. They could even bite through 16th-grade treasures. Its long tongue was longer than a snake's and was very sticky. Once a prey was stuck, it would definitely die. However, the gold-devouring toad was a picky eater. It liked creatures with very high spirituality. It didn't have any natural enemies, but it reproduced slowly. This species was very rare. It was very precious, so it was the favorite of the disciples of the strong sects in sacred grounds. Before the gold-devouring toad could attack, Yi Qing Han had already appeared not far behind it, holding the Rui bell. He stretched out his hand and said, "Submit to me, and I will let you run rampant in the world." The gold-devouring toad gave up on the divine bird and rushed back to Yi Qing Han. Its tongue coiled around Yi Qing Han's neck, and its slender fangs bit at his throat. Whoosh! Yi Qing Han waved his hand, and a ray of Buddhist light shot out from the mouth of the Rui bell, scaring the gold-devouring toad away. "Let's go." Yi Qing Han took away the Rui bell and confirmed that the 4 strong sects were looking for this mutated toad. Since he had taken it away, there was no need to stay here. Otherwise, the 4 strong sects would join forces to encircle and annihilate him. The divine bird quickly returned to Yi Qing Han's shoulder. Yi Qing Han took the divine bird with him and turned into a rock. The vines on his body wrapped around the air, and he instantly rushed to the cliff 100 meters away. Then, he bounced up and swung 100 meters away in the blink of an eye. The group of people from the strong sects found Yi Qing Han's figure, but they didn't expect him to take away the treasure they were looking for after only appearing for a short while. Whoosh! Yi Qing Han continued to use the star-twining vine, which reverberated on the cliff. After a while, he returned to the group of people from the insane sect. "It's a mutated gold-devouring toad. It should be the legendary gold-devouring toad," Yi Qing Han whispered. Others didn't understand the gold-devouring toad, but Zhou Yi was a native of the Great World. How could he not understand the value of the gold-devouring toad? At this moment, his eyes were wide open. Chapter 1826. Yi Qing Han had taken the gold-devouring toad away. They were getting further and further away from the area surrounded by the 4 great sections. The 4 leaders of the 4 great experts all had a golden compass in their hands. It was called the treasure-seeking compass, and it had a special ability to detect special treasures or creatures with intelligence. At this moment, the golden light had dimmed. They knew that the gold-devouring toad had disappeared and was no longer here. With the four great experts guarding the four directions, the gold-devouring toad could not have escaped. They only needed to look at each other to understand that the item had been taken away by Yi Qinghan. During this period of time, there was only one expert who had passed by and left quickly. Chase. We must not let him leave, a lower-level expert angrily reprimanded. His prestige was far stronger than that of the lower-level expert Yi Qinghan had killed. Whoosh! Whoosh! Roar! The four lower-level experts called out their divine pets at the same time. They were all powerful battle-type divine beasts. Some were birds, some were ferocious beasts, but they were all at the overlord level. Whoosh! The ferocious beasts and birds sped away, chasing after Yi Qinghan's tracks. At this moment, Yi Qinghan was standing on the back of a giant praying mantis and sped away. He felt the evil aura behind him and knew that the other party had discovered him. Faster! Yi Qinghan patted the back of the giant praying mantis and said in a low voice. The four great experts chased at the same time as if they were chasing the stars and the moon. Especially the two powerful birds. When they spread their wings, they covered the sky and covered the sun. The sky was dark and evil aura soared to the sky. Kid! Leave the treasure behind. Otherwise, you will undoubtedly die today and even implicate the sect. The ninth elder of the Red Water sect, Qi Shuihen, stood on the head of one of the birds. He had an imposing appearance and was dressed in cold clothes. He pointed his sword at Yi Qinghan in the distance. His voice was low and mighty, stirring up the surroundings. Boom! 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 The two giant beasts pushed mountains and toppled trees, sweeping in all directions. They squatted down and jumped 1,000 meters away. They could jump hundreds of meters. Even the tall mountains and precipitous ridges could not stop them. If we hurry up, the four of them will be able to wipe us out. Zhou Yi's complexion changed drastically as he said in a deep voice, the lower-level realms of the strong sects are not the same as the lower-level realms you killed. Their mystic arts are far more powerful than the lower-level realms of the small sections. A lower-level realm of the strong sects can sweep away a lower-level realm of the small sects. Whoosh! Boom! The giant praying mantis speed became faster and faster. It pounced on the mountain rocks and shattered all obstacles. The mantis blade was like a middle-level divine weapon, indestructible. Yi Qinghan relied on the barbs on the back of the mantis as he crossed his legs. With a wave of his hand, he manipulated the divine fire to transform into a holy bow. The blue beauty demonic fire transformed into a crossbow arrow. The flames burned the sky as the arrow was aimed at the bird. Boom boom boom. Yi Qinghan drew his holy bow to its fullest, and the tip of the arrow tore through the mountains and rivers as it tore through the void. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The void shattered with an irresistible force. It was as if it wanted to annihilate the mountains and rivers and destroy everything. Whoosh whoosh. The blue flame crossbow arrow burned the sky, leaping higher and higher. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Qi Shuihen. Whoosh! Screeched out. The bird felt that the crossbow arrow that threatened its life was approaching. It kept roaring and struggling madly as it tried to fly up into the sky. You're courting death. Qi Shuihen was extremely powerful. With a wave of his hand, he manipulated the origin of water between heaven and earth to form a water barrier in front of the bird. He quickly controlled the bird. Bang! Whoosh! The water barrier contained the ultimate mysteries of water. When it was hit by the blue beauty demonic fire, ripples of light spread out for thousands of miles. It was extremely dazzling. Qi Shuihen was extremely powerful and confident. He poured out his divine power and pushed the barrier forward. However, he was too confident. The water barrier only lasted for a breath before the divine arrow broke through the barrier with lightning speed. The tip of the arrow pierced through the water barrier and headed straight for the bird. Qi Shuihen was shocked. The bird was even more terrified as it dove diagonally toward a valley. Whoosh. Puchi. Screech. The divine arrow broke the bird's right wing in the blink of an eye. It pierced through the steel-like divine wing and swept away a few divine feathers. The bird screamed as it lost its balance and fell into the distance. Qi Shuihen's face turned purple. Even if he was a lower plane expert, if he was thrown off the bird's back and fell from the sky, he would be half dead if not half dead. Up. Qi Shuihen grabbed the bird's neck and forcefully lifted it up. After he regained his balance, he quickly pressed it under a valley. The origin of water enveloped the bird. He used up his 16th rank water origin divine power to extinguish the blue beauty demonic fire. However, the bird's entire right wing was almost destroyed. It couldn't even fly, let alone chase after Yi Qinghan. Qi Shuihen could only sigh as he watched the other three experts chase after Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He stared at the other three experts who were still chasing after him with their divine pets. However, he wasn't in a hurry. Master is mighty. Shoot these idiots to death. It's best if they fall to their deaths, the divine bird shouted excitedly. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up. He stared at the Tai Lai sect on the far right. The one riding the illuminating sky crane is the chief disciple of the Tai Lai sect, Zhang Shaoshan, who belongs to the younger generation. His cultivation has reached the lower level, and his talent is extraordinary. He is not inferior to the holy son of the Holy Land. As for Jian Shursan, in front of him, he is probably not even fit to carry his shoes. He is only at the early level of the lower level, and I am at the peak of the lower level. However, if we fight, there is basically no hope of winning. Yi Qinghan pursed his lips and made a strange expression. He stared at Zhu Tianhe's neck and pulled the bow again. The tip of the arrow glowed with a beautiful blue light. He kept adjusting the direction, looking for the best angle to shoot the arrow. Whoosh. The arrow broke through the air and soared into the sky. Squeak. Zhu Tianhe's voice was filled with panic and fear. He watched the blue flame arrow shatter the void and come, but he couldn't dodge it. However, Zhang Shaoshan grabbed its neck and swung it violently, twisting its body into an upside-down position. The arrow flew past its wings, almost igniting its immortal feathers. However, it was a close call and did not hurt its foundation. Yi Qinghan's expression was still strange, but his right eye was squinting. It looked funny, but no one laughed. Watch my 3 arrows. Yi Qinghan's expression changed. His eyes were cold. He poured out his divine power and formed 3 arrows. Whoosh! The 3 arrows formed a triangle and blocked Zhu Tianhe's escape route. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Boom! The flames burned the void and the arrows almost reached Zhu Tianhe without any obstruction. Puchi! The first arrow pierced Zhu Tianhe's throat. Screech. Zhu Tianhe screamed. The blue flame had already burned his flesh. Boom! Then, the last 2 arrows broke the defense of his wings. The flames dissipated and attached themselves to Zhu Tianhe's body. Zhang Shaoshan was shocked and angry. He kept pulling Zhu Tianhe up. However, Zhu Tianhe had already lost consciousness. He couldn't change the speed of his fall. It was like a cannonball crashing into the ground. Bang! Although Zhang Shaoshan was shocked, he didn't panic. Just as he was about to fall off the cliff, he stepped on Zhu Tianhe's limp back. He bounced up and rushed to the top of the cliff. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.